Ha ha ha. Are those captives? Are you surrendering? I'm warning you, if you don't surrender now, we'll launch full-scale attacks. You know? Huang Enian laughed. Then he waved his hand, and a missile shot out from the ship. Sai watched from a close distance as that missile easily pierced through a light guard ship as it disappeared from the sea with a spin. Sai got a fresh report that all his ships had been locked onto. Sai could no longer endure the horror of desperation. He knew that if he didn't surrender, the enemy's missiles would strike them soon. His fleet would disappear under the power of that unseen weapon. If tens of thousands of soldiers died due to him, that would be a grave sin. He surrendered and rose the white flag. A lucky fighter jet saw Sai's surrendering flag and did a ghost-like turn in the sky. It shot straight down towards the sea. Just as everyone was shouting in a panic, it made another sudden turn and charged into the sky after barely scraping the sea surface. Then, it immediately disappeared into the clouds, flying towards Ethiopia. At the same time, a missile shot at where the plane had skid past the water and made a huge explosion. Everyone was shocked by this scene. Emo looked at the disappearing jet and sighed. This guy's piloting skills were top-notch. He dodged a missile which had locked onto his plane purely with his own skills. Emo even simply let the guy go. Huang Enian was very disappointed. He hadn't even gotten to properly open fire before the Union Army surrendered. However, they captured 4 carriers this time, which made Huang Enian rejoice. They also got 30 other ships of different kinds. Half of the soldiers who fell in the water died, and the rest was captured alive. Compared to the easy fight the Navy was having, the ground troops had the hardest battle. The general was as expectedly Sandow, but the commander was a guy called Liang Di from the Blu-ray Corporation. He was a Chinese soldier and had survived many wars, but the army of the Alliance was far from what Luo you could compare with in terms of quality. If it wasn't due to some geographical advantages, perhaps Luo you would have been defeated immediately upon contact. Even though it wasn't now, after 2 clashes, Luo Yu's casualties were still the same as the opposition's. The second battlefield was at Shitan Valley. The swing tactic involved the Navy starting their bombardment first, and then a few hundred planes would drop bombs. Luo Yu's barely 10,000 ground troops would then quickly be decimated. Afterwards, the Union Army would go past Shitan Valley and take the Luo Yu highlands. Yet before the planes could even arrive above Luo Yu, they were all taken out. Hence, the commander of the ground forces of the Union Army could only order to force their way through in the attack on Shitan Valley. Although they had a lot of people, they couldn't spread their troops out in the narrow valley. Due to all these disadvantages, the Union Army had the same casualty count as Luo Yu. One could see that the quality of the soldiers of Luo Yu was far inferior, though. But luckily, after the first bloodbath-like phase of the war, Luo Yu's army might have decreased in numbers, but it increased in battle power. It was certain that if the enemy's ground forces kept attacking like that, Luo Yu wouldn't be able to hold the valley for long, but watching their planes constantly fall from the sky, the enemy commander's face was pale. He knew that their upper hand would only be temporary. Once their air force was completely taken out, they would be done for. What scared him the most was Luo Yu's anti-air defense. The Union Army's ferocious fleet of jets could muster no resistance whatsoever in the sky. Luo Yu hadn't even had to send out a single plane to decimate their air force with just their defensive system. This was impossible. No country had such powerful air defense capabilities. Yet the reality was right in front of his eyes. Luo Yu did. Our retreat. The commander saw the planes decrease more and more. If their army stayed there, it would be nothing but suicide. The soldiers didn't understand why they were ordered to retreat when they had the upper hand, but as soldiers they had to comply with orders. But even then, the retreat order came a bit too late. Before the troops could retreat, Luo Yu's fighter jets rose into the sky. The commander realized then that their own anti-air system couldn't lock onto any of Luo Yu's planes. Their interference was too strong. This rendered all their anti-air missiles useless. A missile without eyes wasn't a missile. The Union Army could only use some simplistic anti-air cannons and machine guns to fight those jets, but those were just like mere tickles to the fighter jets. As bombs were dropped from the air, they blew the armored vehicles and tanks to oblivion. The commander looked on with a pale face. He knew they were done for, completely done for. The enemy's jets had crushed their soldiers' hopes. Surrender. There was no other way out except for surrendering. When the Air Force had been completely decimated, the Navy chose to surrender, and 1 hour later, the ground forces also surrendered. This shocking invasion of Luoyu took, as predicted by specialists, less than a day. A lightning battle amongst lightning battles. The only difference was that everyone had gotten the sides wrong. The Union Army wasn't able to last even a day and was completely annihilated or had surrendered. 120,000 troops had come, and after a day of intense battle, 30,000 died at sea, while 13,000 died on the ground. Some escaped into the forests, and the remaining 70,000 were captured alive, including Head Commander Sai, Air Force Commander Peter, and the Ground Forces Commander. Luoyu also seized more than 600 tanks and armored vehicles and 130 planes and helicopters. Luoyu lost 1,600 soldiers, 1 plane, on 12 tanks. From their navy, no one had died. This was a complete victory, bound to become the most famous battle in modern warfare. After the results of the battle spread out, the whole world trembled. A certain defeat had been turned into a complete victory. No one could have expected this outcome. The most famous military theoretical specialist Jack Longher immediately came up with a new theory of modern warfare, predicting that it would from then on mostly be based on interference and anti-interference. He said in his theory that, if you don't have a strong interference and radar system, and you wish to invade an advanced country, then I suggest you might as well put away your radar and missiles. Perhaps your best hope at victory is for your soldiers to carry swords and spears. Famous American military specialist Malone also pointed out that Luoyu's electrical warfare had surpassed the current age. The nuclear warhead they had tested was also beyond the times. The fission element in it wasn't even uranium-235 or plutonium-239, but a completely new element. But what made the world truly speechless was Luoyu's spokesperson's, Su Yuehua's, speech. After the battle, Su Yuehua made a speech that was broadcasted throughout the world. I'm very regretful about the Union Army invading Luoyu and causing us infrastructure damage and troop loss at a massive scale. We've lost heavily in this war, and our economy has been greatly affected already. Yet the war shall continue. It will not stop now. Luoyu is not a place everyone can invade and leave as they please. I hereby announce that if we don't get a definite answer to our demands within a week, we just might be the first to strike at some countries. I believe the citizens of all countries are friendly people. They are like us, enjoying peace and disliking war. However, some people for their own selfish interests have started a war with us, causing innocent people to die. They are criminals. We don't like war, but we don't fear it either. I'm telling those who harbor ill will towards us right now that if you still wish to invade us, come, our missiles will welcome your arrival. Due to the ravages of war, our economy has suffered greatly. In order to recover our production levels, we see ourselves forced to sell some of our high-tech products. I believe everyone has recognized the worth of our interference system in the recent battle. It's at a top of the world standard. Due to our losses in the war, I hereby announce the beginning of our sale of this system to the world. Of course, not every country can use our interference system. There will naturally be some conditions. Other than that, I would like to mention that Luoyu wishes to be a nation of peace. So we welcome people from all over the world to come settle here. Our land is limited, though, so if you want to come to Luoyu, you need to act fast. Thank you, everyone. Luoyu's speech made the whole world speechless. They had seized almost all the equipment the invading army had and captured more than 70,000 soldiers. It was rumored that these soldiers were doing hard labor at Luoyu. Yet Luoyu proclaimed that it had suffered a huge economic loss. It was the Union Army that suffered an economic loss. Luoyu proclaimed that they loved peace, yet from their declaration it would seem they didn't want peace at all. They were holding all the soldiers captive and were saying that the war was still on. But it was indeed Luoyu who had been invaded this time. Sina indeed didn't belong to anyone before, and Luoyu got it first. The news of the war between Luoyu and the Union Army was everywhere. Even little kids knew that Luoyu is strong. Their interference machine was invincible. Yet even though it was such a precious thing, Luo Yu actually planned to sell it. Everyone would buy it unless they were an idiot. Luo Yu wasn't selling without conditions, though they hadn't said it explicitly, but it was obvious what their condition would be. To admit their independence. Luo Yu had the ability to stop even nukes outside of their territory, and even nuclear bombs may only cause some minor losses to Luo Yu. Meanwhile, Luo Yu had extremely accurate locating and lock-on capabilities. Meanwhile, the Union was scared ever since Luo Yu had said the war would go on. Those who had left halfway or didn't join the alliance of countries felt lucky they didn't fight Luo Yu. One could see that the Union army had completely pissed off Luo Yu this time. Meetings between countries went on incessantly. During one discussion about Luo Yu and their threats, the US president couldn't control his anger and smashed a glass cup on the floor. He didn't understand how a mere Luo Yu, after merely 1 year of developing, could have such strong technological prowess, completely decimating the army of the alliance of countries and capturing more than 70,000 people. When news of the defeat reached the US, large-scale protests began. Although the president was furious, the meeting still had to go on. More than 70,000 captives and 50,000 dead. This huge loss meant that no matter how he dealt with it, he would be impeached. The people were angry that he had started the war, but that wasn't the main point. The main point was that the war had ended in defeat. He would forever be the sinner of the US. He knew that if he cast all concerns aside, he could probably start a second war. But Luo Yu's interference machine was simply too strong. Even if he did start another war, he could easily imagine the bad result it would have. The third day after the battle, representatives of the US and the 12 countries that had participated, as well as Luo Yu's representative, came to a neutral country's capital to hold a meeting. The alliance's first request was for Luo Yu to release all the captives and give back all the ships. They would pay for the tanks and other weapons. This condition immediately made Yu Miaodong laugh on the spot. She said mercilessly, "Were we the ones who invaded others and were then defeated?" The representatives knew that it was impossible for Luo Yu to agree to that, but the higher they set the start, the easier it would be to negotiate. In the end, Luo Yu just gave 3 conditions. Firstly, the 12 countries had to compensate Luo Yu's economic losses with a sum of $120 billion. Secondly, they had to admit Luo Yu's independence. Thirdly, the 70,000 soldiers should not have to be released. The first and second conditions weren't too bad. Although 120 billion was quite a lot, it wasn't bad when it was split up among 12 countries. One could only say that Luo Yu hadn't seen the truly big money yet. But the third condition, the captives had to be released. Otherwise, wouldn't the whole negotiation be meaningless? They agreed to the first and second conditions almost instantly, but the third one was discussed for a week, before they finally reached an agreement. The captives would be sent back in return for money. Eventually, 12 countries ended up paying Luo Yu a total of $300 billion, and Luo Yu released all the captives. But what the people of the world hadn't expected was that Luo Yu promised that when their first batch of interference machines came out, Luo Yu would give 24 of the machines to the 12 countries as a peacekeeping gift. No one knew why Luo Yu would give up their secret to other parties. But that didn't matter at the moment. The amount of hundreds of billions of dollars Luo Yu received was extremely crucial to them at the time. With the support of such wealth, Luo Yu wouldn't need to worry about anything in the near future. They would be able to just focus on developing their technology. If there was one thing more stunning than the result of the battle, then it was that the Xianxia Corporation went bankrupt. They had hosted a bet on the result of the battle, with the odds of Luo Yu winning being 1 to 100, yet someone had actually bet on Luo Yu winning, and the person seemed to have known exactly how much the corporation had. He bet 500 million, and the corporation barely managed to pay him $50 billion, but after that, they declared bankruptcy. It became the greatest mystery who won the 50 billion, and absolutely no one knew who it was. Because Luo Yu won the war and received huge compensations, and because they had their position in the lucrative pharmaceutical industry, Luo Yu became very wealthy, and all the people in the world wanted to move to Luo Yu. A newly developed place with such strong military capability made everyone who went there feel safe. But the standards for moving to Luo Yu were getting higher and higher. Only the soldiers who had served in the army could move their family to Luo Yu without any requisites. New immigrants had to follow new rules. Many of those who had moved to Luo Yu early on celebrated their decision. Those new immigrants had to pay large sums of money. Luo Dongxing also rejoiced that he came at the right time. Not long after he arrived, the Luo Yu War happened. He thought that Luo Yu wouldn't be able to survive and felt tragic about his fate, but then Luo Yu crushed the Union Army. Now, both his girlfriend and him worked at the management level of Luo Yu and had 10 times higher salaries than ever. He also had his own new residence. This made them feel very happy. Han Yen thought only their Guanghan sect would re-establish their sect at Luo Yu. Yet unexpectedly a big sect like Lian Hang Jing Temple also moved to Luo Yu. At the same time, a few other small sects also came to Luo Yu. When Liang Jun and Lu Na saw Yixing, they finally came to understand why Luo Yu's interference system was so terrifying. Many countries visited Luo Yu, politely asking for cooperation, and they all acknowledged Luo Yu's independence. Emo didn't like this sort of troublesome matters, so he let Su Yuehua deal with everything. He eventually also just pushed her to the seat of city lord. Su Yuehua knew that Emo didn't like those matters, and she knew that Emo's final goal didn't lie with Luo Yu, so she didn't reject the role. Su Yuehua also knew all too well that those friendly-looking countries had come for their interference machines. But the ones they were selling were far weaker than the immobile version that was based in Luo Yu. But these people didn't know, so Luo Yu was able to sell lots. Each machine was sold for 1 billion USD, but even then, before Luo Yu could even complete their production line, they received 100 orders. Even Emo had to admit that the weapon-dealing business was more lucrative than pharmaceuticals. Large sums of money flowed into Luo Yu, and large sums flew out as well, being exchanged for ships upon ships of materials. Luo Yu grew day by day, and only those who lived at Luo Yu could properly feel it. In the same month, Luo Yu announced the establishment of their own government and currency. The world-renowned Luo Yu Immortal Hospital also went back to work. Standing atop a high mountain, Emo sighed as he looked at the Luo Yu that was changing daily. Ever since he had come there, although his cultivation hadn't progressed much, he had finally made some achievements. At least he could now say that he had built and protected his own city. A faint aroma came from behind him, and Emo knew that it was Ning Qingxue. He embraced her and started feeling a little excited. He remembered that a large part of the reason why he built his own city was due to Ning Qingshue's wish. I finally completed our wish and built Luo Yu City. Emo looked at the busy city and felt a sense of accomplishment. Thank you, Ning Qingxue knew that Emo had built the city for a great part due to her. She had wanted a peaceful and worryless environment to live in, and Luo Yu was just that. Before Ning Qingxue could finish, Emo kissed her. After a long while, Ning Qingxue panted and pinched Emo sulkingly. It's still day at night. Emo laughed and looked into the distant sky and said, Qingxue, I want to wait until you reach foundation establishment state. If you Ning Qingxue interrupted, I don't care about any foundation establishment state. I just want to be with you. Sometimes I imagine a life where I am almost never able to see you, and I feel scared. If it wasn't for you, perhaps I wouldn't have ever become happy in my entire life. Thank you for letting me know that love is so mesmerizing. Looking at Ning Qingxue as she was feeling emotional, Emo brushed his hand through her hair. If I hadn't gone to Xianxia that day, would we have passed by each other for forever? Ning Qingshue's voice was very soft, and her eyes were cloudy as she looked at Emo with softness. Emo was dazed. If Ning Qingxue hadn't gone to find him at Xianxia, what would have happened? Perhaps he would have died. Even if he wouldn't have remembered anyone called Ning Qingxue. There would only have been Luo Ying in his heart. Suddenly, Ning Qingxue held Emo tightly as though fearing he would disappear. Luckily, I went. If I hadn't, perhaps I would have lost you forever. I don't know what I would be like without you. Perhaps I would go crazy. She didn't know when Emo fell in love with her, but she knew that it had had nothing to do with her looks. She thought of Su Jingwen and how she felt towards Emo. Ning Qingshue's womanly instincts had made her easily notice that Su Jingwen also liked Emo. What would have happened if it had been Su Jingwen who went to save Yemo at Xianxia? Yemo lovingly held Ning Qingxue tighter and spoke gently. Qingxue, you and Susu are the most excellent women there are. It's my fortune that I could be with any of you. When I opened my eyes at the bottom of the cliff and the first thing I saw was you, I knew I would never be able to forget you. When I felt the wounds on your body and saw that fruit you bit, I knew that I had fallen in love with you. Thank you, Qingxue. Ning Qingxue thought of Susu and was dazed. Wasn't that her auntie? But she soon calmed down. Susu wasn't her biological auntie. She was about the same age as her. And even if Susu was her real auntie, she wouldn't want to leave Yemo no matter what. Deeply in love, Yemo and Ning Qingxue no longer remembered that it was day as they were immersed into a fiery kiss, both of them unable to relent. In the distance, Luo Fei saw the two inside. She worried for her little martial sister Luo Xian. She could tell that Luo Xian liked Yemo, but Ning Qingxue was no lesser than Luo Xian in terms of looks or feelings for Yemo. Furthermore, these two were with each other every day. After who knows how long, the two stopped. They just looked at each other without saying anything. Ning Qingxue's face was red, and her body was hot. She didn't mind what Yemo did to her, she loved him. Yemo was in a similar state, but he had a spirit-cleansing chant and could control himself. Qingxue, I'm going out for now. But if we still can't reach Foundation establishment state in 3 years and there's still no news of Susu, then we will hold a big wedding in Luoyu, Yemo promised softly. I'll wait for you. Ning Qingxue's voice seemed like it came from the edges of heaven, yet at the same time, it resonated at the very bottom of Yemo's heart. With Luoyu on the right track, Yemo believed that even if some countries still coveted Luoyu, they wouldn't dare challenge Luoyu that easily. The more time Luoyu had to develop, the more powerful it would become. Hence, Yemo wanted to go out and take care of some of his own things. He had wasted a lot of time on building Luoyu. As a cultivator, his main focus should be on finding resources and cultivating. For one, Yemo needed to go find that white fox. If it could really find spirit stones and herbs, he would be earning big. Of course, the most important thing was that Yemo wanted to go find Luoying. He loved both Ning Qingxue and Luoying, and he didn't want Luoying to miss out on the wedding. Whether it was this life or the past, his master or Susu, Luoying's position would never change in his heart. Last time he got news of her being in the desert, he couldn't go right away due to Luoyu's matters. So this time he would investigate everything properly for sure. At midnight, Yemo and Ning Qingxue went back to their home, where Han Yen had apparently been waiting for them. Seeing them come home, Han Yen immediately got up. Han Yen, do you have something going on? Yemo looked at Han Yen strangely. She usually wouldn't come out much, and the location their sect had chosen was quite far off. Lian Hangjing Temple had also built their sect in the same valley with Yemo's help. Han Yan's face wasn't relaxed. She would have never thought that Yemo who went to Beijing for just a few 100,000 from Li who would someday reach his current state. Did your grandfather tell you to come? Is it about the interference machine? You can just go and talk to Sister Yuehua about it. Yemo smiled. He guessed that Han Yen should have come for that, but she should focus on cultivation. Han Yen shook her head. No, although it was Grandpa who told me to come, it wasn't for the interference machine. Grandpa wants to invite you to Beijing, and if it weren't for the special circumstances, Grandpa would have come here himself. Yemo immediately understood. Han Zixin represented the Chinese military, so it wasn't suitable for him to come at such a sensitive time in person. Yemo nodded. Okay. I was about to leave anyways, so I'll drop by Beijing. Old Han owes me large sums of ores, so I need to get them. Han Yen said thank you somewhat uneasily and then turned to leave. She was truly grateful to Yemo that her sect could have such a good cultivation environment. The Snow Fox matter wasn't too urgent. Anyway, after Yemo left Luoyu, he wanted to go to Ninghai and see Tang Beiwei. Although Tang Beiwei liked that small house and didn't want to leave, Yemo was still worried and tried to visit her often. Yemo arrived at Westlake Restaurant. This had been his first high-class restaurant, and it was Su Jingwen who treated him to it back then. Emo subconsciously scanned his spirit sense around and actually found Su Jingwen sitting by herself in the room she had eaten in with him last time. Emo had a great impression of her, so he immediately walked into the room. Jingwen, why are you sitting here by yourself? Aren't you with Bei Wei? Emo asked. Emo. Su Jingwen got up immediately. She saw Emo smiling in front of her and subconsciously rubbed her eyes. She had just been thinking about him. How could he have appeared in front of her eyes so suddenly? Are you all right? Emo subconsciously reached out his hand to grab her wrist and check how she was. But Su Jingwen grabbed Emo's hand first. It's really you. Emo? How did you know I was here? Are you forgetting me already? Of course it's really me. I was just passing by here and remembered that this was the place you treated me for the first time. So I came over to have a look. I didn't expect you to really be here. Anyway, you're getting prettier and prettier, aren't you? Emo knew that it had to be the effect of the face-preserving pill. Su Jingwen's face blushed, and she forgot that Emo's hands were still in her hands. Thank you for still remembering me. Su Jingwen felt like she didn't know what to say. Emo could feel that Su Jingwen had feelings for him, but he already had Luoying and Ning Qingxue, so he was more than content. He didn't know what words to comfort Su Jingwen with. The door was opened once again, and a young man holding flowers appeared at the door. He looked in shock at Su Jingwen as she held Emo's hand and was sent into a daze. Only then did Su Jingwen realize that she was still holding Emo's hand. She blushed and quickly let go. Immediately, the atmosphere became awkward. Sorry, I didn't know you guys were on a date. I'll be going first. Emo just realized that Su Jingwen had been waiting for someone here and that he was being a third wheel. He had some mixed feelings, though. But then, he immediately woke up and realized that he couldn't give her anything. So why was he having mixed feelings about her seeing someone else? He was being too domineering. Thinking about this, Emo shook his head. He wasn't happy with his subconscious reaction. By the way, is Bei Wei at home? Emo asked before he left. She said she was going to a student gathering yesterday and that she would be coming back today. Yet I waited for her for a whole day and she still didn't come back, and I felt bored. Su Jingwen subconsciously answered. Student gathering? Emo was surprised. It seemed like Tang Bei Wei had gone to Tandu. Emo would be going to the Duanheng ranges to find the bitter 10 years and the entrance to the inner hidden sects. And he would be passing by Tandu. Thank you. Well then, I won't be disturbing you anymore. Goodbye then. Emo was getting more and more uncomfortable. He felt a bit hypocrite. He was just friends with Su Jingwen. So why did he feel uncomfortable about her going on a date with someone else? He shook his head and walked out of the restaurant quickly. Emo, wait. It's not what you think. By the time Su Jingwen reacted, Emo had already disappeared. She immediately went outside to chase after him. Jingwen. The man saw Su Jingwen run away and called out to her. Zhang Lailin, how did you even know I was here? There is only one person I like, and it's not you. Sorry, but I'll be going now. Then, Su Jingwen started her car and left rapidly. She was regretting, not what had happened today but what had happened before. She had always had good feelings towards Emo and even liked him a little. But her embarrassment had made her unwilling to admit that. If she didn't have special feelings for Emo, she wouldn't have kept Emo's first present all the way until today. She wouldn't have let Emo dance that first dance with her. She had met Emo first. Yet she lost to Ning Qingxue, who came later. She knew Emo more than Ning Qingxue in the past, but she didn't dare admit her feelings. Now, she had lost that first unexplainable, first love feeling. Ning Qingxue was more brave than her. She knew she liked Emo and chased after him without relenting. Up till today, Su Jingwen still didn't know why a prideful woman like Ning Qingxue would love Emo so wholeheartedly. Seeing Su Jingwen leave, Zhang Lailin dropped the flowers in his hands. He had always been very prideful. He was smart, handsome, and he was also the son of the mayor. Zhang Lailin wasn't like many other young masters. He never went out and about doing bad things, and he was conservative with women. He had been the ultimate Prince Charming in the eyes of many pretty girls, yet today, he was rejected. At the moment, Yemo was standing outside of Tan Du University. He didn't think that his sister would spend 2 days on a student gathering, and it was only a 1-hour flight from there to Ninghai. It was the second time Yemo came to Tan Du University. The first time he came, he annihilated Nye Wubian from the Nine Moons sect. He didn't know if the current university would still be like before. Yemo walked into the university campus confidently. The guards didn't stop him. There were always a lot of students going in and out. It seemed like this place was different from before, and those domineering guards were gone. Magical Dr. Yi? Tang Beiwei's big brother. A crisp girl's voice interrupted Yemo's thoughts. Yemo turned back and saw a white-skinned girl of average looks appear before him. You're Yuan Yuan? Yemo remembered. It was this girl who lent her phone to Yemo but had her legs broken by Chen He. Yemo had saved her in the end. Yup, it's me, brother Yi. You're here for Beiwei, right? I really didn't expect to be able to see you again. Beiwei was talking about how long it had been since she last saw you only yesterday. Chong Yuanyu and said. Yemo was also happy to see a familiar face and immediately said, Yeah, I came to find Beiwei. Where is she? Beiwei went with us to a student gathering at Shilong restaurant. She said she met someone she knew there and left early. She said she would come back to stay at my place tonight. Brother Yi, why don't you stay here for now and wait for her to come back? I said I would treat you to dinner last time, but I haven't had the chance to. You must give me this chance today. Chong Yuanyuan said. Beiwei said she was coming back tonight? Why is her phone turned off? Although Yemo didn't really have to worry about her, she was still a girl after all. Chong Yuanyu and immediately said, It probably ran out of battery. When we left for the restaurant, her phone was already almost out of battery. Don't worry. Beiwei will be back by tonight for sure. Do you know who the person she met was? Yemo knew that Beiwei didn't know that many people. Chong Yuanyu and shook her head. I don't know. When I looked from the side of the room, I just managed to see his back. I think it was a middle-aged man. A middle-aged man? Yemo frowned. Brother Yi, don't worry. Let's go eat. After we finish eating, Beiwei should be back. Chong Yuanyu quickly said. She didn't want Yemo to worry too much. Okay. Let's go to Shilong restaurant then. Yemo nodded. If he managed to find the entrance to the pocket world this time, he didn't know when he would be coming back, so he had to tell Beiwei. If possible, he wanted Beiwei to move to Luoyu. Chong Yuanyu smiled cunningly. Brother Yi, I've decided to be extravagant today. Let's go to Golden Pearl. Although it's not the fanciest restaurant in Tandu, it is the most expensive one. They say the food there is amazing. I've always wanted to go, but I didn't have a good enough reason, but now I do. Brother Yi, you must not reject this. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even be able to stand up today. Yemo looked at her eyes and understood that she was speaking from her heart. So he could only say, Okay, you've already started working, right? Chong Yuanyu nodded. I have, and my job is actually related to you. Do you remember Hu Yang, that hospital director of Tankong Hospital? He wanted to suck up to you, so he went to Tandu University's principal and got me a job. I'm a teacher now. As she could still see Yemo be a bit hesitant, Chong Yuanyu quickly said, Brother Yi, don't worry. When Beiwei comes back, she will call me right away. All right, then let's go to Golden Pearl. Yemo knew that he could only follow Chong Yuanyu now. He couldn't just ask about Beiwei's phone and leave. He had waited at the university for more than an hour, and he had no other way to find Beiwei than through Chong Yuanyu. The Golden Pearl, although it only had the one function of being a restaurant, it was the most expensive restaurant in the entire Huzhong province. Nonetheless, it was still full of people. Chong Yuanyu had a classmate who worked there, and because of her, they were able to get a room. When Yemo and Chong Yuanyu arrived at the Golden Pearl, the car park was full of all sorts of cars. Chong Yuanyuan's Toyota seemed very noticeable amidst all the luxury cars parked there. But Chong Yuanyu didn't mind. She was a person with depth and didn't care about cars. Yemo cared even less. He traveled around on a flying sword. He wouldn't care even if he was given a B-2 bomber. As soon as the two got off, some Bentley with a loud engine cockily parked next to Chong Yuanyuan's car. It was also a man and woman pair that got out. The man looked like a young master but was quite gentlemanly when getting off. That woman looked like she was in her 20s, and she had a very curvaceous body. Although she didn't wear tight clothes, the slightly saggy clothes still couldn't hide her features. She had a very pretty face too. If she dressed a little more provocatively, there would be men turning their heads all over the street, yet her appearance was actually rather innocent. Other than an expensive-looking pearl necklace, she seemed ordinary everywhere else. Emo looked at the necklace and knew it had to be worth at least a few million. The beads weren't small and every one of them seemed natural. Of course, even though this woman was very pretty, in Emo's heart she was a far cry from Ning Qingxue. Chong Yuanyu and felt a bit different looking at the girl. This was the second time she saw a girl as pretty as this. In her opinion, only Tang Beiwei could compare with her. Chong Yuanyu and felt a little self-conscious in front of the girl. Emo scanned the two and looked at Chong Yuanyu and, Yuan, what are you standing here for? Let's go in. Yes. Let's go have a big feast. Chong Yuanyuan immediately woke up. It was time to eat food, not to admire others. Hearing their conversation, the two gave them an obviously strange look, but Chong Yuanyu didn't care about that. She was an extroverted girl. Seeing the two walk in, the man smiled. Ning, it's said that this restaurant is the best in the entire Huzhong province. It's also my first time here, though, so hopefully you won't be disappointed. The woman nodded and smiled. Thank you. You're spending quite a lot of effort. It's fine wherever we eat, we don't have to come to Golden Pearl. Ning stared at Yi Mo's back and thought to herself, that man doesn't look ordinary. There is a certain inexplicable feeling about him. He shouldn't be an ordinary person, but his girlfriend looked average and they drove an ordinary car. Other than that, his clothes were also really cheap. But that wasn't the main thing Ning had noticed. The young man had just scanned her and moved his eyes away, as though she was just any random person on the street. Eating at the Golden Pearl wasn't purely just ordering from a menu. It was almost like renting a car. You needed to choose the kind of plate you wanted first and then add dishes on top of that. There were silver, gold, and diamond plates. Silver plates were for the 10K and below price range, gold plates for 10K to 80K, and there was only one type of diamond plate which costed 88.888. Depending on the plate you chose, the cheapest you could get was 2.222 and the most expensive was 88.888. Chong Yuanyu ordered the 8.888 silver plating and then went into a room. Inside the room, you chose the dishes you wanted from a touchscreen. Looking at it, their meal was going to cost more than 15K. And then you also had to take into account what sort of drinks you wanted, fe. High-class wine would cost a lot. There's only two of us. Let's not order that much. It will be a waste if we don't eat it all. Emo commented as he saw that she had ordered more than 15K worth of dishes. Chong Yuanyu smiled. Brother Yi, I finally have a chance to treat you to food. So if I don't get something good now, who knows when I will be able to treat you to food again. Emo knew that she was grateful to him and didn't reject. Hearing this, the two behind them realized that it was the girl treating to the meal this time. And Ning frowned. She could tell that Emo and Chong Yuanyu didn't look like wealthy people, but even though they didn't have money, they still came to eat good food here. This made her very contemptuous. The main thing was that the man seemed to be using his good looks to get free food. Brother, I think that since you came to eat with a girl, it's best if the guy pays for the food. It's a bit embarrassing for the girl to pay for the food. The man could tell Ning wasn't happy and walked up to Emo Chong Yuanyu and was immediately unhappy. She scanned the man and immediately replied, I want to pay for it using my own money. Mind your own business. And Ning didn't expect Chong Yuanyu to be like that, and she intervened. Miss, Zhirang said that out of goodwill. Why are you like that? And Ning felt like the two had no manners at all. Okay, I understand. Anyway, the cheapest dish is only a few thousand. What can we eat from a few thousand silver plate? It's too cheap. Get me a 88.888 diamond plate. The man hadn't planned on getting the most expensive dish, but those two were being rude, so he didn't mind making them lose face a bit. Emo didn't care, but Chong Yuanyu was very angry. Although there were a lot of people eating there, and 8.888 was quite expensive already, those two were implying that she was being too stingy. She genuinely wanted to treat Brother Yi to food. Yet like this, what would Brother Yi think of her? Humph. It's not like I can't afford 88.888 Chong Yuanyu, and was about to get the most expensive one, but was stopped by Yemo seeing that she wasn't happy. Yemo smiled and said, Yuanyuan, what are we pigs? Can we eat that much? 8.888 is enough, we'll leave it at that. What are you implying? And Ning frowned and immediately felt uncomfortable. I just wanted to remind her out of goodwill. Are you calling us pigs? Yemo realized that the two had ordered the diamond plating, but to be honest, he really wasn't trying to insinuate that the two were pigs. I have a good temper and never harass people due to my status, but don't think I don't know how to. Ji Rang also felt insulted. Yemo thought that this was just a small matter, no point in making it too big. His words had been easy to misunderstand just then. Considering that, he smiled and explained, I wasn't talking about you or anything, honestly, but whether you believe me or not is of course up to you. Anyway, Yuanyuan, let's go eat. I really want to know how the food is here. The man was just about to start raging when Ning walked over and smiled sweetly. It was my bad before. I was too sensitive. I'm Ning. This is my name card. Then, she took out a red name card which had a faint aroma to it. Everyone including Yemo was dazed. This pretty woman changed faces too quickly. Everyone thought she was gonna rage, yet instead she started trying to connect with Yemo. That exquisite-looking name card was obviously not one she gave out easily. Even Ji Rang's face sunk. He didn't even have her card. Yet this stranger guy was getting one. Yemo shook his head. The woman might have been pretty, but she was too calculating. Although her face looked cold and indifferent, there was a feeling about the whole thing Yemo didn't like. But at the same time, Yemo didn't have a reason to reject the name card. He smiled, took it and said, I don't have a job, so I don't have a name card. Then, he walked further into the restaurant. Although Chong Yuanyu and didn't have any intentions for Yemo, she didn't like that Ning nonetheless. She immediately said, Brother Yi, that Ning is no simple person, you need to be careful. Yemo nodded. He didn't even look at the name card before throwing it into the garbage can at the door. Of course, he couldn't tell her that. Seeing Yemo and Chong Yuanyuan leave, Ning sneered. She was sure that young man would call her later. She would talk him down yet. She was sure that young man was just playing hard to get. She had seen too many of that kind of people and felt like she needed to teach them a lesson. She was very confident in her looks. And Ning, why did you give that person your name card? He doesn't have good intentions for you. You need to be careful. If it were me, I'd be getting some people to teach him a lesson, the man said. And Ning smiled. It's a small matter, and you shouldn't be casually teaching people lessons anymore. Your grandfather specially gave all you young masters a briefing that you had to settle down. That's just in Beijing, and I'm not in Beijing right now. Also, I have calmed down a lot, Ji Rang said sulkily. By the way, I heard your father say that your family is trying to move to Luoyu. How's that going? Ji Rang remembered the main reason why he had asked Ning out today. And Ning shook her head. It hasn't been done yet. The conditions for moving to Luoyu have gotten much harsher. Then maybe you shouldn't go, Ji Rang persuaded. And Ning fell into silence before saying, I've been to Luoyu once. It's a very beautiful place. Also, I saw no injustice at all there. Yet every day on the internet you see a lot of injustice happening elsewhere. I don't feel comfortable about it, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's not like anyone can do you any injustice, so why do you care? Ji Rang didn't get it. Because I too live on this earth. And Ning shook her head and didn't continue. She knew that she couldn't talk about this topic with rich people like Ji Rang. He had never experienced injustice and wouldn't care. Young Master Rang. A loud voice interrupted the two, and two young men walked over. The one walking in front was less than 30 and had a square face. He looked quite heroic. The youth behind him looked a little older but was also very handsome. Han Dan, long time no see. This is. Ji Rang greeted. Han Dan with the square face walked over and patted Ji Rang on the shoulder. I really didn't expect to see you here. Let me introduce you. This is Zhang Lilin, he just flew over from Ninghai. Lilin, this is my university classmate Han Dan suddenly stopped. He was dazed when he saw a Ning. What a pretty woman. Luckily, he quickly recovered. Hello? I'm a Ning. And Ning greeted. Hello, hello. Han greeted back while almost drooling. Zhang Lilin just casually said hi. Although a Ning was very beautiful, all he had in his heart was Su Jingguan. This was the second time a Ning had to be shocked that day. She thought the first time was Yemo putting on an act. But this Zhang Lilin's attitude was truly cold. At least Yemo had glanced at her. But Zhang Lilin didn't even look at her. Was she perhaps really not that attractive? Lilin is different from me. I'm just a rich second generation, but he's a true social elite. If it wasn't because of an emergency, he wouldn't have come to Tandu today. But now that he came, I need to fulfill my duty as the landlord. Haha. I didn't think I'd be able to see young Master Rang at the Golden Pearl today. Let's eat together. Let it be my treat tonight, Han quickly said. Ji Rang patted his head and immediately reached out his hand to Zhang Lilin. Of course, I remember. You were the #1 student of 2004. Your dad, Zhang Zhigua, is the secretary of Ninghai City. Compared to you, Han and I really are just rich second generations. Haha. Zhang Lilin quickly reached out his hand and said, those are just some minor achievements, nothing worth mentioning. It's my honor to meet young Master Rang. The few got close very quickly and walked into a room. As they talked, they got to the topic of a Ning wanting to go to Luoyu. Han knew that that was his opportunity to shine. If it's Luoyu we're talking about, then I really might have a way. A cousin of mine is living at Luoyu right now, and she is quite a big place, Han said pridefully. This immediately caught the attention of the people there, and even Zhang Lilin was interested. Luoyu was different from China. Even if you were the head of China himself, you still wouldn't be able to casually make requests to Luoyu. So no matter what status you had in China, there was no use in trying to go to Luoyu through relations. Han felt pretty satisfied seeing that everyone was listening to him intently and continued slowly. I'll tell you a secret. The head of Luoyu and my great-grandfather are truly close friends. Do you think my cousin could stay at Luoyu permanently otherwise? I'm not bluffing here. If I wanted to go to Luoyu, I would only need to tell my great-grandfather. Han actually was bluffing, although his grandfather Han Zixin could get him into Luoyu if he wanted. Considering his grandfather's character, he wouldn't help out for sure. Then Han can you help me? I wish to move to Luoyu. And Ning couldn't resist it and stood up to ask. Only Ning herself knew that if it weren't for her truly wanting to go to Luoyu so much, she would never ask a rich second generation such a request the first time she met him. But she really didn't have a choice. She didn't know anyone who could get her into Luoyu, and she wanted to go to Luoyu more and more every day. Han hadn't expected Ning to actually ask him for help, but now that he had said so much, he couldn't just admit that he had been bluffing. He clenched his teeth and replied, of course, I'll ask my grandfather as soon as I get home. I trust that he won't reject me. He didn't have any confidence that his grandfather would agree as he knew his grandfather all too well. But he couldn't lose face in front of Ning. Thank you, Han This is my name card. If you can, please call me on first notice. Ning heard Han promise and felt much happier about the whole dinner. She actually got to meet someone as powerful as Han She had taken out another name card of hers. Ji Rang had seen Ning give out 2 name cards, yet none of them had been for him, and he didn't feel happy. But he really had no way to help Ning. If it was something in China she needed, he would be able to help her properly for sure, but in Luoyu he really didn't have that power. But even good friends can't just appear in the middle of the evening and steal away your girl. So Ji Rang said bitterly, Han your grandfather's character is rather stubborn. I think this promise you're making might be quite hard to fulfill. Han knew that Ji Rang was telling the truth. But he had already made his promise, so he could only say, I'll do my best to make my grandfather agree to my request. But even Zhang Lilin could hear the not really confident tone with which Han was speaking. And Ning could of course also discern it, and she felt like she had been too impetuous. She got up and said to Han Young Master Han, if it proves impossible, I understand. Now if I may excuse myself to the ladies' room, you guys go ahead and keep talking. Seeing Ning walk out, Zhirang smiled. Han Dan, this time you bluffed too much. I really doubt your words. Your great-grandfather agreeing? Han Dan knew Zhirang was right and felt disappointed. If it wasn't that he couldn't contact his cousin, he would rather ask her for help instead. Walking out of the room, and Ning suddenly felt it was funny how naive she was. She had believed something so casually and given her name card. She had given out 2 name cards that day, yet most of the time she wouldn't give out even 1 in half a year. I've been too desperate . And Ning murmured and suddenly stopped. In the trash can next to the door, she could see her name card. She picked it up. It was that guy's without a doubt. For the first time, and Ning felt truly angry and clenched her teeth. She wanted to drag that guy out and also throw him into that bin. She rarely gave out her name card yet today. It had been thrown into a bin. That was intolerable. She didn't think any further before just pushing open the door to Yimo and Chong Yuanyuan's room. Meanwhile, Yimo and Chong Yuanyuan's food had arrived. Yimo wasn't overly passionate about food, but he had to admit that the food there was really good. But Yimo still felt like it was too pricey. The two ate and talked as time passed by quickly. At some moment, Chong Yuanyuan's phone sounded, and Yimo stopped immediately. He wanted to know if it was Tang Beiwei calling. Chong Yuanyuan spoke a few sentences and hung up. She looked strangely at Yimo and said, "It was Jing Gwen. She's looking for Beiwei too and just got off the plane. She didn't find Beiwei at school, and she heard you were here, so she's coming over." Su Jing Gwen? Yimo thought. She was in Ninghai only a few hours ago. How is she here all of a sudden? Suddenly, the door was pushed open. Seeing in Ning with an unhappy face, Yimo was bewildered. Why did that woman suddenly appear? Yimo thought of the name card he had thrown away and scanned his spirit sense out. The card was gone indeed. Is there something wrong? Chong Yuanyuan got up and asked normally. She didn't believe that a Ning would be that interested in Brother Yi. Brother Yi had a certain indescribable temperament to him, but it wasn't to the degree where it would make women like a Ning actually chase him. You really aren't a gentleman, are you? I gave you my name card, and it's fine if you don't want to call me, but why would you throw it into the garbage can? Yimo blushed. He felt awkward and sighed to himself. Why didn't I just throw the card into my ring? Who knew this girl liked checking out garbage cans? Maybe I dropped it accidentally, Yimo said, but he immediately regretted it. Why was he even trying to find an excuse? Oh, apparently you're really environmentally friendly dropping things too. And Ning sneered. Yimo suddenly thought, it was just a name card. So what? He had thrown away Mo Kang's name card too, with the only difference that he had memorized the content first. And Ning, what are you doing there? A voice sounded. The doors opened and Han Dan and Co. saw a Ning stand at the door of Yimo's room. Zhirang, you guys go eat first, I'll eat over here. This person said he would be treating me to a meal. And Ning pointed at Yimo casually. Noticing that Zhirang still wanted to say something, she waved her hand and said, That'll be all. Zhirang didn't dare rebuke her, but he still said shamelessly, Then why don't you join our table? It'll all be on me. Perhaps because these Piol were used to doing whatever they wanted. Zhirang waved at the waiter before Yimo and Chong Yuanyu and could even agree. When did I agree to join tables with you? Chong Yuanyuan was unhappy that she couldn't even peacefully treat Yimo to dinner. It's you? No wonder Jingwen said she was going to tan do out of nowhere. It was because you're here, and you're eating with another girl. I wonder what Jingwen would say if she saw this. Zhang Lilin also noticed Yimo at that moment. Jingwen this way. At the same time, Chong Yuanyu and saw Su Jingwen and called out. Yimo noticed that Su Jingwen was very fatigued and realized that she must have come overdue to him. And Zhang Lilin in turn probably came due to her. Yimo felt guilty but didn't know what to say to Su Jingwen. He had already married Ning Qingxue, and Su Jingwen knew that, yet she had still chased over. What could he say? Yimo. Su Jingwen walked up to Yimo and called out to him while her sadness was evident. In Yimo's heart, Su Jingwen had always remained the friend he could talk well with even when he was very desolate. Su Jingwen had never looked down on him and would never talk to him with such a wrong tone. Yet as soon as she arrived, she expressed her wronged feeling. Emo sighed. He only had Ning Qingxue and Luo Ying in his heart. There were a lot of good women in the world, but he couldn't accept them all. Jingwen, have a seat. I rushed over here because I didn't get news of Bei Wei. Emo hesitatingly explained. And Ning suddenly realized, no wonder this young man didn't seem to notice me. He had such a pretty girlfriend. Jingwen's appearance was no lesser than hers, and she was even better than her in some aspects. But what Ning didn't understand was that since Su Jingwen was so perfect, what reason could there be for her to feel so wronged following the young man? Jingwen. Zhang Lilin saw Su Jingwen sit next to Emo, and his face went pale. His feelings towards Su Jingwen were genuine, but the moment he had seen Emo there, he knew why Su Jingwen had come over from Ninghai and gone on the same plane as him. He had lost to some random young guy. And Ning looked at Su Jingwen and then at Emo and Zhang Lilin and suddenly understood what was going on. She really wanted to spit in Emo's face. Someone as beautiful as Su Jingwen had dropped her dignity to come chase Emo. Yet Emo was still being hesitant. As everyone talked, the waiter served all the food. You must be tired having come all the way here from Ninghai, right? This Song Tree Du Swan liver is a bit average, but it's still edible, Emo said. Seeing Emo stay and talk, Su Jingwen breathed a sigh of relief. At least he hadn't left as soon as he saw her. Seeing Emo take away the most expensive dish, Ji Rang was quite unhappy, but Su Jingwen was a pretty lady, so he couldn't say too much. Only Ning was clearly not too happy. Since you wanted to join the table, then hurry up and eat. We won't be waiting for you, Emo said. Although they didn't mind such a small amount of money, they were still paying for the meal, so Ji Rang and Han Dan reached out to the food they liked. And Ning finally sat down, and only Zhang Lilin seemed like he had lost his soul. Brother Yi, I heard Bei Wei say that she would be going to Luoyu in a few months. Is that true? Chong Yuanyu and said casually, but this immediately caught the attention of everyone at the table. Emo didn't care and nodded. Yes, if it wasn't for her still having some business to take care of in Ninghai, she would be going over now. If you want to go to Luoyu too, you can go with Bei Wei. Why not move your parents there as well? I could go too, but I heard that after the war, it has become much harder to get into Luoyu. Could I really go? Chong Yuanyuan exclaimed joyfully. Bei Wei rarely told her about Emo, so she didn't know that Luoyu was Emo's. Of course. Jingwen, you can come too if you want. Emo smiled. Su Jingwen smiled sweetly. I was planning on going to Luoyu, but I was afraid you wouldn't want it, so I didn't ask. Why wouldn't I want it? The more people I know go to Luoyu, the better. Emo smiled. Han Dan looked at Emo and suddenly seemed to have thought of something. And Ning first thought Emo was just bluffing to Chong Yuanyu and had a sneer on her face. But when she heard Su Jingwen's words, she felt like it could be real. Can you really make immigrating to Luoyu possible? And Ning asked subconsciously. That's our business. Jingwen, Yuanyuan, you're both done eating, right? Let's go. The people here are paying for us, so we don't need to worry about the bill. Emo got up. Wait! And Ning suddenly stopped Emo's eyes focused, and he suddenly stared intensely at the necklace on her chest. When he first came in, he had seen it but hadn't thought much of it. However, now that Emo scanned it with his spirit sense, he felt like it was very familiar. It was a fish's eye. It wasn't exactly a fish's eye. It was two fish's eyes forming a bead. Emo was sure that it was a broken piece of that yin-yang fish 8 trigram. He had 2 pieces already, and now he saw a pair of eyes on the necklace on her chest. He would be taking it no matter what. Emo had the premonition that the yin-yang fish was no simple thing. If it was some cultivation material and he missed it, he would regret for life. Where are you looking? And Ning took a step back. She didn't expect the young man in front of her would start staring at her chest the moment she stood in front of him. Emo? Su Jingwen also realized that Emo's gaze wasn't okay and subconsciously held his arm. She thought Emo had had too much to drink, and her holding Emo's arm was as if she was saying, I'm no lesser than this and Ning. She also meant to protect Emo and show that the man she liked wasn't like that. Only Ning was able to interpret her actions. The faint aroma and softness which touched Emo's arm made Emo realize that he had been too impolite just then. He patted Su Jingwen's hand gratefully, signaling that he got it. And Ning also realized that Emo wasn't trying to do anything to her. Su Jingwen was right next to him, and there were so many people there, he couldn't do anything to her anyway. Seeing all this happen, Ji Rang got up immediately, but before he could say anything, he was pulled down by Han Dan. Zhang Lilin's eyes lost their shine as he felt dejected. Emo patted Su Jingwen, telling her to wait a bit, and then said to Ning, "Ning, there are some things I want to talk to you about alone. Don't worry, I bear no ill will." Ning just realized that Emo had lost his bearing due to some other thing. He probably wasn't interested in her. She had wanted to ask Emo about going to Luoyu anyway. If he really had such power, she wouldn't mind using him to achieve her goal. Okay. Ning immediately agreed. She went back to their original room. Han Dan, why did you pull me down? That punk dared be rude to Ning. I'm gonna teach him a less-Ji Rang's mouth was quickly covered by Han Dan. He looked worriedly at Su Jingwen and Yuan Chongchong before pulling him to the side. Young Master Rang, do you not want to live anymore? Do you know who that person is? Han Dan questioned coldly in a hushed tone. Who is he then? Can he kill me? Ji Rang sneered. Han Dan laughed. Qiu Zhirong, don't blame me for not being a good friend. But if you want to die, don't drag me into it. Not only can he kill you, I can easily say that even if he killed you right now, your Qiu family wouldn't dare to do anything about it. Ji Rang shivered. Who in China would be able to kill him and make the Qiu family not dare to react? All I will tell you is that that person is very likely Emo, the very person who made your grandfather personally go apologize. If you dare look for trouble with him, I admire your balls, Han Dan said contemptuously. When Qiu Zhirong heard the words Emo, cold sweat immediately started running down his back. He finally understood what Han Dan meant. If that person truly was Emo, then he could be slaughtered like a chicken. Brother Han, thank you this time. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even have known how I died. Qiu Zhirong wiped the sweat from his forehead. The number one person who the young masters in Beijing must not offend was Emo. He didn't think that Emo would be going around all over and even come to Tandu. He was really unlucky. Luckily, he remembered his dad's words and didn't act too cockily a bit earlier outside the restaurant. Otherwise, he would have already offended the young Master Yi at the counter. No need to thank me, you saved yourself. If you were still like before, you would probably be laying outside now. Han Dan felt very satisfied about Zhirong owing him now. Han Dan, should we leave right away? Qiu Zhirong just wanted to leave the place as fast as possible. Han Dan patted him and said, I heard Brother Zhangju say that young Master Yi actually doesn't like to start trouble. As long as you don't mess with him, he won't look for trouble with you either. So if you leave now, young Master Yi might think you still look down on him. Just stay low-key like me for now. Then, Han Dan said quietly, the other day, your Qiu family's Qiu Zhizha cockily tried to attack young Master Ye's friend. And in the end, you understand. Seeing Qiu Zhirong keep nodding his head, Han Dan continued, that Ning really is pretty, and young Master Yi pulled her to the room next door. What do you think they will be doing that can't be heard by others? Young Master Yi must want her, so you must not look attracted to her in front of him. And also that Jingwen, don't take so much as one extra glance at her. Han Dan was using Yemo's power at that moment. Yemo's wife was very pretty, so he probably wouldn't be interested in Ning. Han Dan was the one who was really interested in Ning, so he wanted to use Yemo to stop Qiu Zhirong's desires for her. Yemo closed the door, looked at Ning and said, I want the necklace on your chest. Name your price. Yemo knew he sounded arrogant, but he simply had to get that necklace no matter what. You! And Ning blushed and wanted to rage. What was up with this guy? Although her pearl necklace was expensive, it wasn't unbuyable. What did this guy really want? It didn't seem like he was trying to get her. Do you know how rude it is to ask for a necklace a girl wears on her chest? And do you know how much this necklace costs? And Ning's tone wasn't as good as before. In her eyes, Yemo couldn't be that rich when he rode in a girl's Toyota. Yemo smiled. I don't know how much money you want, but if I pay 10 million, that should be the most that necklace is worth. And Ning was dazed. She hadn't imagined Yemo would be that rich, but she didn't want to sell it for 10 million. Her necklace was worth 3 million, and together with the small fish piece it was worth around 8 million. I'm talking US dollars here, Yemo added. You're that rich? And Ning was really shocked. 10 million US dollars. Even Zhirong wouldn't be able to take out that much. No one she knew could casually take out 10 million, not even if it was 10 million renminbi. Who was this person and how was he this rich? If you want, I can even let you keep the pearl necklace. I just want the eyes of the yin-yang fish, Yemo added. And Ning just reacted and looked at Yemo in shock. How do you know that that's a yin-yang fish eye under the necklace? Yemo was dazed. Right, how did he know? He couldn't really say, I scanned it with my spirit sense. Right? Instead, he quickly said, I saw it accidentally when you bent over once. What? When did she bend over? Was it really an accident? And if this guy had seen the fish eye, wouldn't he have seen other things too? Seeing Ning be silent, Yemo could only say, it's not good for girls to wear fish eyes, so if you agree, I can give you a smaller diamond instead. It's much prettier than that. What? And Ning was dazed again. But before she could come to terms with it, Yemo took out a diamond a little larger than a soybean and threw it in her hand. And Ning looked dazedly at the huge diamond in her hand. She had never seen a diamond that big. From the bottom of her heart, she felt like the diamond was much better than the fish eyes, but her grandpa had given her the fish eyes. She didn't really want to give it away. Seeing that Ning was still hesitating, Yemo spoke again. The fish eyes are yin-yang fish eyes. Don't you feel scared wearing that stuff at night? I heard these ancient things have a strange magic to them, and I might not be scared, but aren't you? Although she knew Yemo was just scaring her, she did really start being a bit afraid. Just as Yemo was about to keep speaking, and Ning took the diamond and said, it seems like you're not that simple at all. Being able to take out 10 million US dollars and such a big diamond. Yemo made up his mind that if Ning still disagreed, he would agree to give her 20 million as well as a luminous pearl. However, Ning said, I know you want this yin-yang fish eye really badly, but there's no need to trick me. I agree to trade with you, but I don't need your dollars. I think this diamond is enough. Since you want this fish eye so much, though, I'm sure it's no ordinary thing. Hence, I have a few extra conditions. Yemo blushed. He didn't expect the woman to be so astute. Weren't diamonds supposed to be the killers of women? How was Ning still this calm? What Yemo didn't know was that his words had actually succeeded. If this fish eye wasn't as scary at night as Yemo made it out to be, Ning probably wouldn't be willing to trade. Tell me, Yemo said casually. Ning said coldly, first of all, I understand that you have quite the capabilities, so you must allow me to migrate to Luoyu. Secondly, tell me how you knew it was a yin-yang fish eye when you glanced at it from that far away. Thirdly, you must tell me why you want this necklace. Yemo had a headache because of the last two questions. He would rather have paid more money. Seeing Ning look at him like he absolutely had to answer, he could only say the first condition is fine. I can let you move to Luoyu anytime you want. Secondly, I actually looked quite carefully when you bent over, for which I apologize. Thirdly, your yin-yang fish eye is a piece of a broken whole, and I want to gather all the pieces together. And Ning blushed and wanted to rage. How could this guy be so shameless? But Yemo was already taking out his two pieces and put them on the table. I have two pieces here. Can you check if your yin-yang fish eye is a part of it? And Ning noticed that her piece truly fit the other two pieces. She took out her necklace subconsciously and put it on the table, and it fit perfectly. It really came from the same place. And Ning let go of the necklace subconsciously. Before she said anything else, Yemo picked up the necklace and said, give me your diamond. I can fit it in here for you. You know how to do that? And Ning looked at Yemo in confusion. Even if Yemo knew how to put a diamond into a necklace, there were no tools present. Despite that, she still gave the diamond to Yemo. Yemo switched things around quickly, and he took the Inyang fish eye. It's done. I used to do this on the streets, so I'm very fast. Here. Yemo gave the necklace back to Ning. Ha! Ning caught it subconsciously and didn't know what to say. This was too fast. It practically looked as though the diamond had grown on the necklace. Ning was sure that even a jewelry master wouldn't have been able to attach it that quickly. Let's go. As for going to Luoyu, just call this number and tell her that Yemo said to take care of it. Yemo gave Yu Miaodon's number to Ning. Looks like Bei Wei is back. As soon as he gave the number to Ning, Yemo's spirit sense scanned Tang Bei Wei as she opened the door with a face full of fatigue. Brother! Tang Bei Wei ran into Yemo's arms and started crying. Yemo was shocked and quickly checked her. He found that she was just a bit tired and emotionally distressed. He quickly patted her shoulder and said, "Don't worry, just slowly tell me what happened." Su Jingwen and company also came out. Ning saw Tang Bei Wei in Yemo's arms and was shocked yet again. She rarely saw women as pretty as herself, yet now two women like that stood right in front of her. The girl that was in Yemo's arms at the moment also had a certain ethereal temperament to her. It made Ning feel very strange. But immediately after, she looked down on Yemo. The people related to him were all very beautiful women, and they all acted so intimate. Little did she know that in Yemo's heart she was actually a calculative woman, a far cry from Tang Bei Wei and Su Jingwen. Tang Bei Wei looked up and realized that there were a lot of people. So she quickly said hello to Yuanyu and Jingwen. Yemo didn't keep waiting for Tang Bei Wei to start explaining, because she probably had things to say that were not suitable to be said then and there. Young Master Yi, my name is Qiu Zhirong. About today, Qiu Zhirong walked up to Yemo and bowed respectfully. Yi Qinbei, I'm Han Yan's cousin, Han Dan. Han Dan also came to bow. No wonder Yemo had recognized him. Yemo nodded and looked at Qiu Zhirong and said, "So you're from the Beijing Qiu family? No wonder you're so rich." Qiu Zhirong didn't dare say anything and just looked on as the four walk out of the Golden Pearl. Ning watched them strangely. She really didn't understand why these young masters were so respectful. Who would be able to make the Qiu family act so fearful? Meanwhile, Zhang Lilin looked lost when Su Jingwen left. Half an hour later, Yemo, Su Jingwen, and Tang Bei Wei booked a room at a hotel. Yuanyuan had to go back early. Now tell me, what happened? Yemo looked at Tang Bei Wei and asked. Su Jingwen was also comforting her on the side. As I was with my classmates at Shilong restaurant yesterday, when the gathering was about to end, I saw Wei Yongqian. I immediately got furious, thinking, I have to kill this animal. I quickly told Yuanyu and I'd be leaving and followed him out. Wei Yongqian? The one who tricked you into sleeping with me at Tandu. Yemo immediately remembered the guy that had escaped. Have you already killed him? Yemo asked. Tang Bei Wei shook her head. No, although I brought a lot of fireball charms with me. He seemed to have realized that someone was following him. I was planning on giving him a fireball at some far-off location. He was very cunning and called a taxi at a busy place. Nonetheless, I still kept following him, but the car drove very fast and I couldn't attack. It went all the way to Mount Xian, where he got off and went into the forest and I followed him. Then he went into a temple. This temple was very old, so I thought Wei Yongqian wouldn't be able to escape. But when I came to the door of the temple, I saw an old Dao nun appear there. Tang Bei Wei's tone turned shaky. She was obviously still scared. Yemo sat down and grabbed her hand. Tang Bei Wei calmed down a little before saying, I told the nun to move aside and said that Wei Yongqian had enmity with me. But that nun sneered and told me to leave or she would kill me. But I hate Wei Yongqian to the bones, so I wasn't going to let him go. I shot a fireball charm at him. But that nun easily grabbed the charm, and it turned into dust. Yemo's heart sunk. There was a nun that strong? The fireball charm he left Bei Wei had been made when he was at stage 3 of Qi gathering. Although it wasn't very strong, it could still easily kill a yellow-level primary stage. And even though it could be easily avoided, it was too absurd that that nun had been able to catch it with her hand and turn it to dust. You saw it with your own eyes? Yimo's face turned serious. Tang Beiwei nodded, yes, I really did. Then after a long time when she finally spoke, she said that my charm was good and that she didn't want to kill. She told me to leave all the charms behind and leave. I didn't leave the charms behind and just ran. I knew I was no match for her. But if she chased me, I would just throw all my fireball charms at her. She didn't chase you? Emo asked strangely. That nun didn't sound that good-hearted. Tang Beiwei shook her head and said, I was also confused after seeing that she wasn't hunting me down. I ended up getting lost because I was so worried, and I only found my way out the next day. I have let an enemy run away from me again. I'm really useless. Tang Beiwei started to cry in Yemo's arms again. Yemo patted her shoulders. Beiwei, don't worry. Now that you found him, I won't let him go. I will help you get revenge. It is weird, though. Since that nun was so strong, there was no reason for her to let you go. Anyway, think carefully. Yemo comforted her. Yeah, Beiwei, Mount Xian is only that big. How did you get lost? Su Jingwen commented. Tang Beiwei just thought about it at that moment and realized that indeed, Mount Xian wasn't that big. How could she get lost there for a whole day? Yemo nodded. I checked your chi and dantian, and it is true that you didn't receive many injuries. Right? I remembered something. During the day, I felt like I hadn't gotten very far, so that none could have captured me easily. Tang Beiwei replied. Yemo said, although it's a little hard to believe, the following might be the truth. That none must have set up a formation outside the temple and trapped you inside of it. As for why she didn't attack, I don't know either. Beiwei, you weren't attacked in the formation. Tang Beiwei replied after a while. I didn't get attacked, but I did feel dizzy and sleepy after walking for a bit. I then immediately started running chi cycles and stopped feeling tired. But after a while, I felt tired again and had to do the same. Yemo finally understood. It had been a close call, though. If he hadn't taught Beiwei some cultivation method, she would have been done for last night. What he didn't understand was that with that nun being so strong, why did she not capture Beiwei personally? Tang Beiwei had also understood and asked full of fear of what could have happened. Brother, you're saying that that person wanted to wait for me to fall asleep in the formation? Yemo nodded seriously. That's probably it, but you did very well. Luckily, you didn't fall asleep. I think the formation probably needed someone to control it, and because that person saw that she couldn't do anything to you for the whole night, or because of some other reason, she decided to let you go. Beiwei, let me look at your necklace. Yemo pulled the necklace from Tang Beiwei's neck. It still had some warmth, but Yemo could tell that it had been attacked for more than once. However, in her worry, Tang Beiwei hadn't even noticed that she had been attacked. Other than that hypnotizing formation, you have been attacked many times, but it was all blocked by your necklace. If I'm not wrong, it's not that she didn't want to properly attack you, but that she couldn't for some reason. Perhaps because she was heavily injured and wouldn't be able to handle all your fireball charms. She hesitated when attacking. The attacks you received weren't very strong, Yemo said as he put the necklace down. Oh really? If only I had known, I would have shot out a bunch of fireballs at once. Tang Beiwei expressed her regret as she felt the necklace. She felt gratitude towards her brother. If her brother hadn't given her the necklace, she didn't know what would have happened. Yemo shook his head. It was right of you not to use the fireballs continuously. That old nun was probably injured and unsure whether she was a match for you. If it turned out she could deal with the fireballs, however, then once you used them up, you would be in danger. Sometimes you don't have to use your weapon to threaten others, but it's a bigger threat to keep it instead. Brother, I remember now. When I shot out the first fireball, although that nun caught it with her hand, her face was very pale. And I understand now. She really was heavily injured. Tang Beiwei remembered something. What is it? Yemo immediately asked. Tang Beiwei reminisced. Her face was scarily pale under the moonlight. I didn't dare look too long, so I retreated subconsciously. Then, I seemed to see her shadow moving on the ground. I was very scared and thought it was the wind. But now that I think of it, how can the wind make a shadow move? She must be heavily injured yet still have forcibly caught my fireball charm and then used her inner chi to suppress her wounds. Yes, that must be it. Emo and Su Jingwen also believed that Tang Beiwei's guess would be right. The three talked a bit more before Tang Beiwei and Su Jingwen went to rest. Tang Beiwei was very tired and fell asleep as soon as she got in bed. But Su Jingwen tossed around and around, unable to fall asleep. Su Jingwen suddenly thought that it seemed like Emo would be going away for a while soon. So she suddenly wanted to talk to Emo privately. She thought about how she had had the courage to hold Emo's arm today, and her heart beat fast. In the past she wouldn't have had that courage for sure. But as she saw Emo less and less, Su Jingwen felt at a loss. Looking at Tang Beiwei, who was already asleep, Su Jingwen got up like a thief and carefully walked to Emo's door. Emo's door was a little open, so Su Jingwen pushed open the door and carefully called out, "Emo." Su Jingwen suddenly got tense. What if Emo hugged her or something? It was the middle of the night, and she was in her pajamas. She just wanted to talk to Emo as there were many things she had been wanting to ask Emo about. But ever since Emo left Ninghai, she hadn't had the chance to talk to him privately. Su Jingwen felt like something was wrong. She knew of Emo's sensitivity. He wouldn't possibly not be able to hear her call. Su Jingwen turned on the lights and found the room to be empty. She subconsciously went to the bathroom, and there was no one there either. Emo had gone out. Su Jingwen felt disappointed yet also relieved at the same time. It was so late, though, where could he have gone? Su Jingwen sat on Emo's bed in deep thought and fell asleep. Of course Emo had gone to Mount Xian. If he didn't get back at that nun for harming his sister, he wouldn't be able to sleep. It was just as Tang Beiwei said. There was a tattered temple on the mountain. Emo walked in, but there was no one there. He could only hear the occasional howl of some animal and nothing else. Emo scanned his spirit sense around the temple, and there was some dark blood marks, so it seemed like whoever lived there was heavily injured indeed. Just as Emo wanted to go outside to check if there were any signs of a formation set there, a white, ghostly figure slowly floated towards the temple. A ghost? Emo was standing at the door as he watched the white figure approach the temple. From a distance it looked like it was floating and it shone brightly under the moonlight. He was dazed. There weren't many manifested souls, and those who manifested had some basic offensive capabilities. Ghosts were usually invisible, but Emo could scan them with his spirit sense. These beings usually lived in special environments, such as the heavenly ditch or tombs. This wasn't a ghost. Emo's spirit sense had scanned clearly that it was a man under a white sheet. It was just that the way he was walking was strange. Moreover, he had covered his head too. Emo didn't know why he was doing this in the middle of the night at an abandoned temple. Was that necessary? He seemed younger than 30 and he had lost a finger on his left hand. Not here? The man said to himself after seeing there was no one at the door. But after this, he pulled out a dagger from his waist and scanned the temple. Then, he kicked a broken mat and cursed, "Fuck! I came here for nothing." Afterwards, he took out a phone and called someone. Not long after, another person came there. This person was like the man before, carried a knife and a white sheet. But this time it was a woman, a robust woman. "What happened?" she asked. "Ran away. What a loss." The man cursed. "I told you to come earlier, but you wanted to come at this time." That man looked rich. He must have been forced to stay here because of an enemy. "Look at the things he bought in Mount Xian. It's stacks of red notes," the woman complained. Emo immediately realized that they were probably talking about Wei Yongqian. He probably left during the day and bought some items in the city at Mount Xian. Hence, the couple had seen that Wei Yongqian was wealthy and wanted to rob him. They followed him to the mountain, but since they couldn't really make a move during the day, they came at night. However, Wei Yongqian was gone. They probably used the white sheets to scare him too. The woman had stayed down there to catch Wei Yongqian in case he tried to escape. "Fuck, we lost a great deal. If we had managed to get him, we could have lived freely for a long time. Fuck. To me, let's have some fun." The man put the sword away and laughed at the woman. Emo felt disgusted. This guy was really careless. He felt like doing that in such a place. The robust woman sneered. "Piss off. We didn't get the money today. I'm not letting you." "Hehe. To me? Why are you being like this?" You know, every time I give you the best. When we get more money in the future, I will still give you the best. Then the man grabbed the woman towards him. The woman didn't reject him this time. The two of him quickly took off their clothes. They went onto the only table in the temple and started panting heavily. The man looked ferocious but finished very quickly. The woman said unsatisfied, "If next time you will only do this, don't bother touching me." Then, she kicked the table unhappily. Emo, who was going to leave, suddenly stopped. He had heard the kick on the table, but it sounded hollow underneath. Emo reached his spirit sense down and found that he indeed had missed something before. There was earth under the table, but under the earth there was a lid. Emo reached his spirit sense down even more and he found a hole under the lid. This meant that there was an underground room. The two finished up and started getting dressed themselves. Then, that man suddenly shivered and said, "To me, why do I feel like there's someone blowing cold air on my neck? It's so cold." The woman was putting on her pants and sneered, "You're too useless, leaving me hanging like this. Don't touch me again if you're scared of the cold." Emo heard the man's words and scanned his spirit sense over. He was dazed. He really did find a ghost this time. There was a faint ghost standing behind the man. It was clenching its teeth, but it was too weak, so it could only blow some cold air. Emo saw the ghost and knew that ghost's death was related to the man. If one did too many bad things, they would encounter ghosts indeed. Emo wouldn't intervene. He wanted to see what the ghost would do. "It's real. I felt cold air blowing onto my neck again." The man's tone was shaky. The woman was about to reply, but then she saw the white cloth slowly raise in the air, as if picked up by an invisible person. There was no wind. Cielo cloth. The woman couldn't stay calm anymore. She pointed at the cloth and wanted to run, but her legs weren't moving. "Cloth? What ar dash?" The man turned around and saw the white cloth coming at them. "Yeah!" The couple dropped on the floor unconscious because of fear. Emo shook his head. If they had been bold enough, they could have just ignored the cloth. If the two of them ignored it, the ghost wouldn't have been able to do anything to them. However, the ghost was a victim and Emo didn't intend to burn it. He walked out and kicked the couple out of the temple. Emo ignored the ghost and approached the table in order to open the tunnel. But the ghost floated over to his side, so Emo turned around and said coldly to the ghost, "I can see that you're pitiful, so I will let you go. But if you get in my way, then I will certainly do something about it." Emo felt the ghost shiver after he said that, but he still didn't leave. Instead, it emanated a feeling of gratitude. "Do you know me?" Emo didn't know why he would get that feeling from the ghost and asked. The ghost nodded but couldn't speak. Emo thought about this and decided to send his will with his spirit sense. Emo rejoiced when he realized that the ghost could convey his thoughts back to Emo through his spirit sense. "Qianbei, you are a powerful person indeed. I didn't think I, Ijuha, could meet you twice, although I'm a ghost now." Emo was dazed after understanding the message. Emo remembered the name. He was a middle-aged man and a very generous person. He had met him at the Luozong magic artifact meeting. When he couldn't see a single magic artifact, he had brought his two daughters and paved the way. "How can it be you?" Emo was dazed. Ijuha gave him a very good impression. He couldn't have imagined that he would be harmed by that couple. He must have exposed his wealth coming to Mount Xian. Ijuha soon conveyed how he had come to Mount Xian for business and started being targeted by the two criminals. Although he told them he could give them even more money, the two just took his cash and killed him. "Okay, you're a nice guy, and you helped me out last time, so I'll help you too this time." Emo threw out two fireballs, and the two people outside were immediately turned to ashes. Ijuha looked at Emo's power in a daze, while his ghostly form started to dissipate. If he hadn't known the Qianbei in front of him and this Qianbei threw a fireball like that at him, his soul would have been turned to nothing in an instant. Emo sighed. He wondered what could have happened to that protection artifact Ijuha had had. If he had worn it, he might not have died. "Qianbei, thank you for helping me get revenge. I feel that I'm about to disappear from this world. Please help me. I'm worried about my wife and two daughters. Now that something has happened to me, my two brothers will try to steal my fortune. I've left a will. It's in my best friend Jiang Junshin's hands. You want me to bring this will to your family? Emo frowned. He didn't really want to do that because he was very busy. But Yi Juha was a good person, so Emo would go if he had the time. He did think Yi Juha was worrying too much, though. His wife and daughters were still there. How could his fortune be taken by his brothers? Thank you, Qianbei, now I feel assured. If you see my wife, tell her to give you the Rainbow Rock. Jiutang City's Juha Corporation is mine. Before Yi Juha could say everything he wanted, he dissipated. Emo sighed. He did have the In Sha bead, but he didn't have any ghost cultivation method, so he couldn't help Yi Juha. The only reason why Yi Juha had been able to last so long was purely because of his will. The moment he relaxed, his ghostly form couldn't stay in this world. Bar any special circumstances or other people keeping the ghost in existence, it was very hard for ghosts to stay in this world. Moreover, the ghosts kept by humans usually weren't capable of conscious thought, and only ghost cultivators would have their own will. Emo collected his thoughts and opened the passage under the table. As soon as he opened it, he immediately knew that there must have been people living there. There was a flow of wind in the place. As he walked a few meters in, Emo saw a room and scanned it. There were a crooked wooden bed and a new-looking rug in it, and other than that, there were also a normal table and chair. Emo carefully scanned around with his spirit sense and quickly found that the wall was different in one spot. He walked over and noticed that it was possible to open that spot. After opening it, Emo found a big wooden box, and as he opened the box, Emo found 4 thick books covered in silk inside. 3 were actually of the Tao Te Sutra and 1 was even older and didn't have a cover. Emo was dazed because he knew the books quite well by then. Those were really 3 Ni Luo Sutra books. Emo opened a book and was able to barely recognize the words Ni Luo on a yellow page. What disappointed Emo was that the 3rd book's golden title page was missing. Emo owned 2 golden pages already, so the 3rd must have been taken by the person who hid those books in that place. The person who hid it there must have also found out about the secret of the golden page. Emo sighed. He had obtained the 3rd book, yet the most important part was gone. How did that other person realize that the blank title page was special? Emo thought for a moment and suddenly came to realize that that person most likely must have had all 3 books. But since 2 of them didn't have such a blank page, the person only had to think a bit to know that the blank page was very important. But even then, there was no point in leaving the 3 Ni Luo Sutra books in that spot. Suddenly, Emo remembered what Luo Yin had said. It was a martial ant from their sect who probably took the Ni Luo Sutra, and she was halfway the Great Heaven State. Factoring in Tang Beiwei's encounter, it would seem that the old nun Beiwei had met was most likely that martial ant. The 4th book Emo found looked very thick and had some images on it, all of bare women. Each image had red lines showing the direction and method of qi cultivation. It was probably an ancient martial arts cultivation method. Emo gave it a look and saw that it was much more powerful than other methods. The 4 books had no meaning to Emo, so he casually dumped them in his ring. Emo then looked around, but there was nothing else. Emo could only leave and reseal the entrance to leave it the way he had found it. It seemed like that nun was injured and had left those books behind. But the books didn't take up that much space, so did she find it dangerous to keep the books on her for some reason? Was there someone hunting her? Also, why would a half-step Great Heaven Master from the inner hidden sects be together with someone like Wei Yongqian? Emo didn't understand that as they were people from 2 different worlds. In the meantime, it had become almost daylight, so Emo quickly left the broken temple. Emo came back to the hotel only to find Su Jingwen laying on his bed. Why was she sleeping there? Ah, you're back. Su Jingwen heard the sound of the door closing and woke up, and when she saw Emo look at her strangely, her face blushed as she thought about what happened the night before. She quickly started to explain, I came to talk to you last night, but you were gone, so I ended up falling asleep here. Emo understood and smiled. Go ahead and keep sleeping then. I'm not tired. Su Jingwen quickly said. It's already day. I'll be leaving. When Tang Beiwei got up in the morning and didn't see Su Jingwen, she called for her but didn't hear a reply. When she walked out of her room and didn't find her in the living room either, she thought, Where did she go this early in the morning? And why didn't she wear her coat? At that moment, Yimo's door opened, and Su Jingwen walked out of his room in her pajamas. She saw Tang Beiwei and smiled. Morning Beiwei Yum. She just realized that she was walking out of Yimo's room in the morning, and Beiwei was seeing her like this. What would she think? Sister Jingwen, you slept with my brother last night? Tang Beiwei asked subconsciously. Wah, Beiwei. It's not what you think. Your brother wasn't there last night. I slept. Su Jingwen stuttered. Yimo walked out at that moment and stood behind Su Jingwen. Su Jingwen didn't keep explaining but quickly ran back into her room to change clothes. Beiwei, after we have breakfast, I will send you and Jingwen back to Ninghai. Yimo didn't feel safe about having them there with that old nun nearby. Brother, I'm really surprised. Tell me, last night, did you and Sister Jingwen? Tang Beiwei uttered quietly. Yimo smiled helplessly. Beiwei, don't say that. Nothing happened between us. Humph. Brother, you with slept Sister Jingwen, so you need to take responsibility for her. You live in Luoyu anyways, so it's fine if you have more than one wife. Sister Jingwen is so pretty. It's not like you're losing out. Tang Beiwei suddenly raised her voice. Su Jingwen heard her by the door and felt embarrassed. She wanted to hear what Yimo would say, so she didn't open the door. Yimo sweated. He never knew his sister had such a side to her. Yimo didn't want things to get more complicated, so he cut it off. For now, Beiwei, don't speak about it again. I'll explain to you later. Jiutang City was the biggest city in Hedong Province. Yimo went there right after sending Su Jingwen and Tang Beiwei away since he had promised to help Ijuha. Although he was very busy, he truly approved of Ijuha's character. There were a lot of wealthy people, but not many of them were generous. When Ijuha bought his necklace, he hadn't known the true value of it. He bought it in the first place due to his love for his daughter, but also to help out Yimo. As for going to Beijing, Yimo called Han Zixin and found out that it was something concerning the search for the space flower blueprint. He immediately lost interest. Before Han Zixin could persuade him, he said he had no time and put the phone back in his ring. Yimo didn't know where Ijuha's home was, so he could only ask people on the road about where Jiuhe Corporation was. It turned out to be really easy to find out, as they were the biggest corporation in that region. However, the person he asked smiled and said, "It's the third time they're holding a court hearing about the will case. You won't find anyone responsible at the Jiuhe Corporation at the moment." "What will case?" Yimo asked strangely. That person replied, "Brother, you must be a foreigner. Everyone in this city knows about the Jiuhe Corporation will case. The owner of the corporation, Ijuha, disappeared, and soon after, they found his remains. His fortune is cause for a lot of conflict after his death. The third court hearing is taking place today." Yimo asked surprised. He only had his wife and daughters. How could they fight over that? Yes, but he also had 2 brothers and his father is still alive. The main problem was that he left a will, but it's a bit weird how the fortune is to be divided according to it. That's all I've heard. The person left. Yimo analyzed the situation. It seemed that Ijuha had expected this, but didn't get to deal with it before he died. Furthermore, his death was very strange too. How could someone like him be killed by 2 robbers? Yimo stopped at the steps of the courthouse and suddenly thought of something. The 2 robbers from the previous night must not have been easy to handle if they could kill Ijuha. But then how could they have let Wei Yongqian escape? Since they thought Wei Yongqian was wealthy, they wouldn't have let him leave their sight. With their experience, how could they make such a low-level mistake? Moreover, the temple was quite old. How could they be sure that Wei Yongqian would spend the night there? This meant that they had a person keep watch at the bottom of the mountain. And since they didn't see Wei Yongqian leave the mountain until night, they decided to go up. But then, how did Wei Yongqian and that nun get away? There was definitely something wrong there. The couple was horny and just wanted to have sex. So they didn't think about how Wei Yongqian could possibly have left. But Yimo had been to that place, and he knew that if Wei Yongqian and the nun wanted to leave, they would have had to go through the small path. Another weird thing was that he hadn't found any signs of the formation there last night. No, he had to go back and see. After all, it involved the golden page. Thinking about this, Yemo no longer was in the mood to go to the court. He could ask someone to help with Ijuha's case, but he had to go and look for the nun and the golden page himself. Just when Yemo was about to leave, the door opened and people got out. Yemo immediately saw Ijuha's two daughters. They were helping a stressed-looking middle-aged woman walk. Next to them, there were two middle-aged men. One looked like Ijuha's wife and the other one wore glasses. Since he had seen them, he thought he might as well go greet them. "You're that person who sold us the magic artifact." The older daughter saw Yemo and said in surprise and joy. Yemo smiled and said, "Hello, yes I am. I'm also your father's friend, Yemo. I was passing by Jiutang City, so I decided to come by and say hi. My dad already passed away." The girl's eyes turned red. Yemo nodded. "I have already heard. Don't worry, I will take care of this." "You'll take care of this? You sure talk a lot of trash, but I see little action." The man in glasses sneered. Yemo sneered and studied this man. Even if he couldn't really deal with it, there was no need to use that tone. "Yen. He's dash." The woman looked at Yemo in confusion and asked her daughter, "Mom, remember when Dad, big sister, and I went to Luozong's magic artifact auction together? He's the person who sold us the necklace," the other girl said. Yemo just realized that the woman was wearing a necklace and understood. Ijuha was a family man. "Hello, Juha's dash." The woman couldn't continue speaking. "Sister-in-law, what do you even know? It's the E family's fortune, but you want it to belong to the Lu family. I already promised that you and your two daughters will live without any worries, but you decided to take us to court. What's the result going to be? Do you think Juha didn't know his surname is E?" A middle-aged man approached them with a judge and said, "You're shameless," Yen said in anger. The middle-aged man sneered. "Respect your elders. If it weren't for Juha, I would have already kicked you three out of this city. How dare you try take away the fortune? Bastards." "Sister, don't bother." The younger daughter pulled Yen away. "What? Was Juha's fortune taken away from you?" Yemo asked with a frown. It seemed the case was about to be closed. Ijuha's wife sighed and didn't say anything. The middle-aged man behind her said, "Although the results haven't been announced yet, they are decided. Xiao Dai and Yen won't get any part of Juha's fortune." "Juha said he left a will. Do you know about it?" Yemo asked strangely. He was angry. How could Juha's wife and daughters not get any part of his wealth? Uncle Junshan also died last week. The will he had is dash. Xiao Dai looked around. She didn't dare say it was fake. "This sounds fishy." Yemo shook his head. He would definitely not allow this to occur in Luoyu. "Who are you, anyway? You have no business here. Piss off." The middle-aged man's face sunk as he looked coldly at Yen. Ijuha's wife stopped Yemo and said, "Since you're Juha's friend, we can talk on the way to my house." "Humph, disloyal woman," the man cursed. Yemo was sick of him. He kicked him up in the air and threw him onto the concrete stairs. His head immediately started bleeding. Everyone was shocked. That young man dared to attack someone in front of the courthouse? Soon, people gathered around him. Great Judge Chun, Lu Lin got someone to brutally attack people at court. A man blamed as he went to help the middle-aged man Yemo had kicked. Seeing this, Xiao Dai quickly walked to Yemo and said, "Brother Yi, leave quickly. If you get captured, you will go to jail for sure. The man you knocked out is my second uncle, Iju, and the judge is on his side. My dad's will is fake, yet they say it's real. What's going dash?" Great Judge Chun walked outside and frowned as he looked at Iju. But he only got to half of the sentence and immediately stopped. He opened his mouth wide open in shock. "Great Judge Chun, my brother was beaten at the door of the courthouse. If the perpetrator won't get Dashichihai also stop talking." Looking in confusion at Great Judge Chun. Great Judge Chun quickly walked up to Yemo and bowed. "Young Master Mo, I didn't expect you to come to Jiutang City. It really dash. Who are you?" Yemo looked at the man and asked. He had seen the guy before when he helped Shirshio at the Wutong restaurant. He was Wu Zei's friend. He was probably an official in Beijing. The man quickly said carefully, Young Master Mo, I'm Wu Zhe's friend, Chen Huichang. I was moved to Jutong City to be the citizens' great judge. I had the honor of eating with you at Wutong restaurant. Yi Mo nodded. So, does that mean you're responsible for the Yi Jiuhe will case? Yes, I know this case. Another judge is responsible for it, Chen Huichang said carefully. He hadn't expected Yi Jiuhe to have such a powerful ally. He knew that case for too well. He was indirectly helping them. Then, this means that you knew this case was dodgy and that Yi Jiuhe's will has been switched, right? Yi Mo's words shook everyone. Who dared to speak to a judge like that? Especially in public. This Chen Huichang was sweating. He knew that if he replied yes, then his career would be over. However, if he didn't reply, Yi Mo wouldn't have mercy on him. If you don't reply within 3 seconds, you won't need to reply at all. Yi Mo's voice sounded cold. Chen Huichang thought about the situation carefully. If he replied, he would lose his job at most, but it was still much better than losing his life. Yes, the will is fake. In order to frame Lu Lin and her daughters, Yi Qihai plotted with other people to make a fake will. Bastard. You knew it was fake and you still dared support them. Yi Mo slapped him. Chen Huichang spun on the spot before falling onto Yi Zhu. Everyone was dumbfounded. Who was that young Master Mo? He had dared slap a great judge in front of court. Even the great judge didn't dare to lie in front of Yi Mo and told the truth. Yi Qihai suddenly felt cold. He could tell that young Master Mo was no ordinary person. He must not let him stand on Lu Lin's side, so he would fix the situation before that young master could counterattack. With these thoughts in mind, Yi Qihai walked up to Yi Mo and took out a cigarette. Before he could say anything, he was kicked to the side by Yi Mo. So violent. Everyone was looking at the scene. What shocked people the most was that Chen Huichang crawled up, wiped the blood from his mouth and ran to Yi Mo, as though waiting to be hit again. 2 policemen who were about to go capture Yi Mo immediately stopped on the spot. Young Master Mo, please tell me what to do. Chen Huichang tried to make his tone sound calm. He cursed himself for not investigating Yi Jiuhe properly before doing this. Judge this case again and make sure to send the people who made the fake will rot in prison. I don't have time to stay in Jutong, but I will come back and check. If I'm not happy with what you did when I come back, then don't blame me for what I might do, Yi Mo said coldly. Chen Huichang breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly said, yes, I will judge this case fairly. Chen Huichang seemed to want to say something else, but eventually didn't. Lu Lin's 2 daughters and the 2 middle-aged men were completely dumbfounded. They had seen ferocious people before, but never someone as ferocious as Yi Jiuhe's wife reacted quickly. She knew this friend of her husband's was not ordinary at all. Her body shook with excitement. Ever since her husband had died, they had been simply toys about to be kicked out of the city. Lu Lin saw Chen Huichang's hesitation, and after thinking about it, she soon understood why. Lu Lin approached Yi Mo and said, Jiuhe's second sister-in-law's father is the secretary of Jutong City. I think she didn't finish the sentence. Yi Mo immediately understood. Chen Huichang was hesitant, because he wasn't sure if he could beat that secretary. After all, he had only been there for a short while, and Yi Mo said he was leaving. I'll find someone to help. Yi Mo took out his phone and decided to call Li Chunsheng. He didn't know many officials, but Li Chunsheng was in Hefeng City of Hedong Province, so he should be able to help here. Li Chunsheng had been doing very well lately. He had been getting promoted quite fast thanks to his own capabilities, but because he didn't have support, he had to share his political achievements with others. Once he met Yi Mo and received help from the Li family as well as taking care of big issues in Hefeng, he got promoted again in a short time. He was now the secretary of Hefeng City, a Hedong Province senator, and vice political secretary of Hedong Province. This meant that he was going to be the next secretary of Hedong Province. Li Chunsheng, who had risen like a rocket, was just eating with other senators after a meeting. At that moment, Li Chunsheng's phone rung. Only his family and a few special higher-ups could call his private number. But what shocked everyone was that as soon as he picked up, he immediately got up and seemed very respectful. Everyone was trying to guess who the caller was. Could only be a higher-up from Beijing. Yes, yes. Li Chunxing kept agreeing for a while, and then finally hung up. No one usually asked about these kind of calls, so Li Chunxing decided to say, "Someone called to tell me about a will case in Jutong City. Someone changed the content of a will in order to win over a fortune, and what is more, the judge confided with these people to frame the innocent. I need to go to Jutong personally." What? For a mere will case, Li Chunxing was going there personally? Who did this case involve? Seeing Li Chunxing apologize and quickly leave the restaurant, everyone was shocked. He had given up the opportunity to talk with all of these province-level leaders for a case in Jutong. Emo put down his phone and looked at the man in glasses. He said, "Who is he?" Lu Lin quickly said, "Let me introduce you. He's our lawyer Wang Yi, and this is my brother Lu Mang." Emo nodded. "I suspect that there might be something wrong with your lawyer. Chun Huichong. Check if he's clean." "Yes, young master Mo." Chun Huichong had heard Mo call Li Chunxing. He knew that Li Chunxing had become quite powerful. Thus he spoke even more carefully. The man in glasses' expression turned bad, but he didn't dare say anything. Mo left things to Li Chunxing. He was confident he would be able to deal with it. The first thing he did after leaving Jutong was going back to that temple. Mo searched the place carefully. There were indeed marks of a formation, but it had already been removed. When Mo got back to the underground room, he immediately realized that he had missed some details the first time he came. The room was still there, but the wooden box Mo had left on the ground was gone. He realized at once that people had come back after he left and just took the box. Mo carefully searched around the room with his spirit sense. 10 minutes later, he finally spotted something. There was something protruding at the head of the entrance. Mo pressed it and something rumbled behind him. He turned around and saw a door appear on the stone wall. Mo realized he had missed his best chance. When he first came there, perhaps Wei Yongqian and that nun had been hiding in the stone cave, but now it was too late. When he walked inside, he found out that it was a tunnel. Without a doubt, Wei Yongqian had gotten away through there. Mo started looking around, and after a while, the door closed itself. He continued walking down the tunnel. 10 minutes later, Mo had pushed aside a big rock and was standing at the end of the tunnel. It was a cliff, and below it there was river. Mo was uncomfortable with the fact that Wei Yongqian escaped in front of his eyes. The main thing was that the golden page has been so close to him, however it was now gone. Mo remembered that the nun was from the Xianxia temple, and Xianxia was one of the 3 big sects of the inner hidden sections. Mo then decided to go to the inner hidden sects, since he really wanted the last golden page. If he could gather the 3 of them and form a world, his accomplishments in the future would be unlimited. Perhaps not even the strongest person on Luoyu continent would be a match for him. Although Mo didn't understand a lot of things, it didn't mean he hadn't heard of it. His master Luo Ying had told him before that masters that cultivate to the extreme all have their own worlds. Those who cultivate to the extreme can ascend to the immortal realm, and they have worlds that exceed Luoyu continent itself. He was at stage 5 middle level now. Excluding those top-level Great Heaven Masters, he should be able to face any Ren Pingchuan level master. If I had a world, Yimo's heart was burning with desire. He didn't dare to keep thinking. At the Duanheng Ranges in the Sea of Clouds. It was the second time Mo went there. He had come there before to find the Duanheng 7 stars. Luo Xian had told him that the entrance to the inner hidden sects was at the Tiankou position of the Duanheng 7 stars. Duanheng was one of the younger ranges in the world. Mo had been searching the ranges for 5 days, but he still couldn't find the 7 stars, much less the Tiankou position. There were too many peaks there, and they were too similar. Moreover, they were hiding in the clouds, so it was really hard to find 7 peaks that looked like the 7 stars. On the 6th day, Mo decided to stop looking from the air. He went into the valley and started searching on the ground. On the 6th night, Mo found a motorbike in a bush with some fuel still inside. There were some footprints in front of it. Mo looked at them closely. They belonged to 2 people. He followed the prints for 10 minutes and eventually found a huge natural valley. The entrance was very small. After walking inside, Mo immediately felt something was different. It was as though the valley was an entrance. Emo looked around him. Although there were seas of clouds everywhere, he was shook. He clearly saw that under the sea of clouds there were 7 not very tall peaks. The valley had a spoon-shaped distribution. Duan hung 7 stars? Emo said subconsciously. No wonder he couldn't see it from outside. One could only see it from the inside. Emo saw this and couldn't help but admire the wonders of nature. Now that he had found the 7 stars, it was very easy to find the Tiankou position. He climbed to Tiankou's peak, where he found a stone with a 3-meter diameter in front of him. There was a person in the middle of the rock, to be exact, a dead person. It was a middle-aged man. His body was dry. There was not a single bit of blood in him. It was as though all of his blood had been sucked away. Emo walked to the body and took out an identity document from it. He immediately knew who the man was. It was Wei Yongqian. So he had died there. There was no doubt. Emo knew his death was related to that nun. It meant that she was returning to the sect, and made Wei Yongqian take her there before killing him. But even if Wei Yongqian had to die, there was no need to take out all of his blood. Was that nun a psycho? Furthermore, Luoyin had said that the formation to the inner hidden sects had been closed. Hence, why did the nun bother making Wei Yongqian take her there? Emo looked around. He had come from the cultivation realm and knew about formations, but he really didn't understand how the Beidou 7 stars worked. The large rock also didn't have anything special to it. Emo walked to the middle of the big rock and stepped on it. It wasn't hollow inside, it was just like a normal rock. He scanned his spirit sense down but couldn't reach very deep. He subconsciously inserted his cultivation energy inside, but as soon as the two touched, his energy started getting sucked away uncontrollably. Emo was shook. He wanted to leave the rock, but he was completely stuck. He couldn't move his arms or legs. Qi flowed like a river into the rock. Emo started to sweat. If this continued, he would be sucked dry. Emo looked at Wei Yongqian. Had he been sucked dry to death because of this? Emo thought desperately of a way to escape. The only thing he could do was to use his remaining qi to charge at the rock and break free. But that way, he might get heavily injured due to the backlash. That bastard old nun. If she hadn't taken the 3rd golden page, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Emo gritted his teeth and knew that if he didn't try it now, he wouldn't have the chance to try at all. With these thoughts in mind, Emo gathered all of the qi in his body and blasted it at the suction force, forcibly stopping the draining of his qi. The huge repulsion came, and Emo flew back into the air, spitting blood before crashing heavily into a rock. Emo couldn't help but curse. Fuck! He had smashed onto a rock, and not only was his left leg broken, but his chest was also smashed in heavily. The main thing was that he couldn't use his qi. Emo's heart sunk. Something had even happened to his dantian. He had wanted to escape that huge suction force, but the first part of his body to face the repulsion force was his dantian. Luckily, he had quite a bit of Lotus Life pills on him, but as Emo subconsciously wanted to take one out from his ring, he immediately felt cold sweat. He couldn't use his spirit sense. A broken leg was a small problem for Emo, and the dantian damage was a major issue, but compared to his spirit sense, both were nothing at all. If he couldn't use his spirit sense, wouldn't that make him completely powerless? Realizing the state he was in, Emo began to worry. He had seen a black bear before. What if some other beast comes? He would only be able to wait for death. Luckily, he was a cultivator and figured out reality at least somewhat on time. His state was much better than being sucked dry. He looked at Wei Yongqian and suspected that he was sucked dry, because he inserted his inner qi inside. Or maybe that old nun had found him for the express purpose of getting him sucked dry, so that she could enter the formation. If that was the case, there were people everywhere. Why take this Wei Yongqian? Emo suddenly thought of something. The old nun was heavily injured. Did she not know about the danger of this rock before and try to manipulate it with her inner qi, in the end getting injured like him? And then maybe as she wanted another way to enter the formation, she let Wei Yongqian feed it? If that was the case, then it still wouldn't explain why she had to take precisely Wei Yongqian. Emo thought about another point. He was stage 5 middle level already, and that nun was only half-step great heaven. So how come he was injured so heavily yet that old nun could still go all the way to Mount Xian? Did she have a better way of escaping than him? There was one more possibility, which was that the nun wasn't injured there, but that she was injured by someone else. But Yemo didn't really think much of that theory. There was really no one who could injure that nun except for Rinpingchuan, but he was already dead. Yemo rested for a while and recovered some strength but still couldn't use his qi. He struggled up and found a stick to use as a walking stick. He slowly moved on top of the big rock and looked at it carefully. However, he couldn't find anything special about it. Yemo sighed. Even when he had his spirit sense, he hadn't managed to see anything. Yemo walked to Wei Yongqian and searched his body, finding a few $100. But he didn't find a phone. Yemo thought that if he could find a phone, he could call Ning Qingxue or Tang Beiwei. If they knew he was here, they could come and open his ring, as they both had spirit sense. For the first time, Yemo felt tragic. Even back when he fought Rinpingchuan, it wasn't as bad as today. Yemo found some herbs and tied his broken leg to a stick before he applied the herbs and then rested easy. Before he managed to take out the things in his ring, he could at least try to go back to Ninghai as long as he recovered the strength of a normal human. But as Yemo walked to the entrance of the valley and was prepared to go out, his face looked extremely bad. He noticed an old nun in blue clothes carry a small bag as she walked in, and the nun also noticed Yemo. The two stared at each other for a long time without saying anything. But Yemo reacted fast. He pretended to be shocked and asked, "Master, I was on an adventure with a few friends in the Sea of Clouds, but we encountered a bear, and I was chased in here. How did you find this place, Master?" Yemo looked at the nun and knew that she might possibly be the old nun Tang Beiwei had talked about. He didn't expect her to still be there. Yemo cursed. If he had gone there 3 hours later, this nun would be a meal on a platter. Yet now he was her meal. The nun also reacted and breathed a sigh of relief. No matter whether this guy's words were real or false, it seemed that only he knew about the place. It wouldn't be good if too many people knew about it. There was indeed a bear in the area, and she had seen it more than once, but she was still doubtful of Yemo's words. It was too coincidental to be true for Yemo to have found this place while running away. "Oh, I'm from Yanjing Mosque, and I need to gather some rare herbs. Hence I came here. I didn't expect to be able to see anyone here. Did you encounter a black bear? That's really dangerous," the nun said with a worried face. Yemo studied the nun carefully. She was at most 50, and her skin was very pale, but her brows looked good. If it wasn't for the few wrinkles on her forehead, Yemo wouldn't be able to tell her age at all. Although he didn't have his spirit sense, he could tell that she was heavily injured like him, but she was still in a much better state than him. If they were to fight, Yemo was sure that he wouldn't be able to survive even one move. "Where is that bear? Would you meet it again if you were to leave?" the nun asked as the worry on her face got more intense. Yemo said with a bad face, "I don't want to risk it and go out now, but at the same time, I see that this place is also very eerie. I saw a dead person laying on a stone just now, so I don't dare stay here. I would rather face a bear than a dead person. By the way, Master, what is your name? It's very dangerous to pick herbs alone in this place, so I think we should leave this place together. 2 is better than 1 after all." Yemo acted as though he was thinking for the nun. The nun's eyes flashed with coldness at the last part, but when she saw the worry in Yemo's eyes, she smiled. "It's fine. Our mosque knows some simple martial arts, so we can deal with some basic dangers." "Yeah, I know you can," Yemo thought, but then he noticed the coldness in her eyes and was afraid he had spilled the beans somewhere, although he had been very careful when he spoke. But then her tone obviously contradicted her expression from before. He immediately figured out what he needed to work on. He immediately looked up in surprise and joy. "Master, do you really know martial arts? Can I learn? I heard a lot of masters live deep in the mountains. Is your Yanjin Mosque also like that, deep in the mountains?" Then Yemo gave the nun an expectant look, and he saw the nun give a look of acceptance. She had been testing him. In China, there were a lot of tales of masters deep in the mountains, and many people wanted to meet such a master and be taught unimaginable power. Emo suddenly realized why Wei Yongqian must have been together with this nun. My Dao name is Jiesun. If you wish to learn from a master, I can introduce you, but we take in disciples very strictly. The nun smiled and said, Master Jiesun, I'm willing to take the test as long as I can learn. Emo looked desperate on the outside, but he was contemptuous of himself on the inside. Perhaps he could win an Oscar with his performance. Emo saw that there was something off when she smiled, as though he was being stared at by a hungry wolf. But since she had said that, it meant that she didn't plan on killing him for now. Emo thought of Jingxi. Compared to that pale-faced nun, he would rather face him. At least Jingxi was much prettier and younger than that old lady. Her chest was much better than that chest as flat as an airport. Thinking about Jingxi, he remembered her red belly cover. She was rather sexy. After realizing he was thinking of that woman, Emo shook his head and sighed. He had punched her off a cliff. She should be dead no matter what. If it hadn't been for that woman, he wouldn't have had to be separated from Luo Ying. He knew that Luo Ying still missed him. Otherwise she wouldn't have gone all the way to the desert and taken away the pool. It was just that, in her mind, she couldn't pass that moral barrier. The nun gave a milky white stone to Emo and said, Hold this stone tightly and tell me how you feel. Emo looked at the stone and howled in his heart. Was that a spirit stone? Where did she get this? He had been looking around for one all over, yet she just casually took one out. Although he couldn't digest the spirit chi, Emo felt comfort and happiness as soon as he grabbed it. Before he could react, the nun took the spirit stone away. Emo looked at the stone in the nun's hands. He wanted to steal it and say, Letting you have it is like letting rats eat wheat. Don't waste food. But Emo knew that it was best not to do anything. Do you feel very comfortable and happy? The nun's eyes looked happy. Emo thought about what to reply. The nun had seen his expression, so he could only say, Yes, I do feel like that. What is it? What is this rock? Master Jiesun, can you tell me where you found this stone? I also want to look for it. It's very hard to find this stone. But since you have that feeling, it means you have a talent for cultivating ancient martial arts. In that case, come with me. Don't worry, it's not my first time here. Even if we see a black bear, I can take care of you. Jiesun nodded. Emo was breathing heavily. He had tried his best. But the nun was still going to take him in and kill him? Should he run? Even if he did, he couldn't escape. However, if the nun was planning on killing him, she could do it now. There was no point in taking him down the valley. Emo could only pretend to be overjoyed as he walked with her towards the big rock. She stood on the rock and then said to Emo, Use your foot to step here. Let me see your martial talent. Emo looked at where she pointed at. It was the place he had stood on not long ago and almost died at. Now the nun wanted him to do it again, so Emo wanted to run away immediately. But he knew that as soon as he would start running, he'd be dead. Hence, Emo knew he had to do what the nun said, and so he did. He thought that if he didn't use force, nothing would happen. As soon as Emo stood there, the nun hit the place where his foot touched the rock with her palm, which was full of inner chi. His heart sunk. It was over. The nun was using her inner chi to catalyze the suction force of the rock, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to resist at all. But Emo didn't feel the rock suck away his blood. In fact, there was no movement at all. Although he didn't know why, Emo rejoiced. It seemed like that place wouldn't suck him a second time. No way, Jiesun said subconsciously. Emo pretended not to know anything and asked, Master Jiesun, what's impossible? Jiesun cursed. Emo had no value anymore, so she didn't want to waste her breath. Emo saw the killing intent in her eyes and quickly realized things weren't going well. He immediately said, Master Jiesun, is my talent not good enough? If it isn't, I still have a few cousins. Should I bring them here for you to meet them? I could even help you test them as long as you teach me how to do it. Emo's words made her hesitate. She looked at Emo and said, We don't take in disciples that easily. They must be tested many times. But you can try if you want. Emo quickly said, I have a few cousins who all want to learn from a master, but they've never had the luck to meet someone like you. It's my fortune to be able to meet a master. If my talent isn't sufficient, I can just learn a few moves from them. I can help you test the rest of the people in town. There's bound to be someone who is truly talented. The nun actually nodded. Okay. In that case, I'll go with you. It's not that your talent isn't enough, but it's not great either. I'm scared that the mosque will be too strict, and I don't want to give you false hopes. By the way, what is your name? Where do you live? Emo was now sure what it had all been about. The woman had no good intentions. Her spirit stone could test a certain trait, and she would take those who had it along to have the formation suck their blood. That might be the secret to activating this formation, but he still didn't understand it. Emo looked at Wei Yongqian. He had been the last target, but his blood hadn't been enough, so Jiesun went looking for more people. Was she using the stone to sense and track down people with spirit roots? Emo shivered at this thought. Qingxue and Beiwei all had spirit roots. They must not meet this monster. But he also had a spirit root. Why wasn't he hurt then? He was the first time, but not the second. This didn't make sense. He didn't have time to keep thinking, because he had to reply to the nun's words quickly. He didn't know the names of the villages nearby. If the nun saw through that, he would die immediately. He could only say, I'm quite ashamed. I'm from Huiyan town, and I've never heard of Yanjing Mosque. Emo was worried about the old nun asking him to lead the way. What would he do then? The nun heard Yemo's words and was expressionless. She took out a black pill and gave it to Yemo. It'll help with your wound. Take it. Yemo took this pill, but his expression immediately turned angry. He could tell the black pill wasn't going to cure anything. Because it was poorly made, Yemo could smell the Bing suregrass scent. It's pungent and highly poisonous. After eating it, it can block out one's 5 senses, and if one didn't get the antidote within 49 days, one would lose their 5 senses forever. But Yemo had the lotus life seed. He could cure it even if it was 49 years later. The nun was so cruel. She was giving him such a thing. Did she not want him to help? Master Jiesun, I only have some mild injuries. This leg will be fine in a few days. I don't need to take a pill. Yemo glanced at the nun's cold eyes and continued. This pill is too precious and I should save it for later. It's fine, I have a lot of these. You can take as many as you want. The nun's face was calm, as though she really had a lot. But Yemo knew it was very hard to get the Bing suregrass. She couldn't have a lot. She was forcing him to eat it. Did that mean she suspected him? Thinking about this, he said, I should leave these good things for Master. I'm not used to eating these things. You say you want to learn from a master, but still suspect me. Who are you? Huiyan town doesn't exist at all. The nun's expression looking angry. Yemo was shook. No way. When she mentioned Huiyan town, he realized that she never planned on letting him live. She wouldn't name a fake place. Wait, the nun was tricking him. Realizing this, he faked astonishment. Master, how is that possible? A lot of people know about Huiyan town. In fact, all of those who come looking for adventures to do on Hung ranges stay there. In that case, take me there first. I do need some people with martial talent. It was as though the old nun hadn't accused him a few seconds ago. Yemo cursed that old fart for being shameless. If he hadn't withstood the test, perhaps he would have been tricked. One could see that the nun was already suspicious about him. Yemo could only act as though he didn't know anything and follow the nun with joy, but he secretly put the pill away. What? You don't trust me? Why don't you take that pill? Don't you want to get better sooner? Jiesun looked at Yemo with intent. Yemo cursed. He was being threatened by an old woman. Despite so, he had no choice but to eat the pill. He knew what the nun wanted, which was to make him unable to call for help. Yemo realized that the nun wouldn't relax at all around him for at least half a month. As soon as she did, he would escape to Beiwei and eat the lotus life pill. But if he ran away, the nun would find out. If she couldn't find him on time, perhaps she would be the one running. However, if she managed to get away, he wouldn't be able to get his golden page and spirit stone. Yemo suddenly thought of the motorbike he had seen. If he used that, could he escape? Do you know a lot of people at the Huiyan town? the old nun suddenly asked. Yeah, I know most of the young people there. They would all like to train martial arts. If Emo still wanted to say something else, but the nun stopped him. I need you to help me out big time. I don't need you to know a lot of people. Just put up a board saying, testing martial talents. The old nun waved her hand. Wear this. The old nun suddenly took out a thin object and gave it to Emo. Emo cursed again. How did that nun have so many good items? This was a one-time use mask and the materials were very expensive. A normal person wouldn't be able to take it off in his life once it was worn. He really suspected that the nun had found an ancient cultivation home. If he recovered his power, he wouldn't have to worry about the mask. Once you put it on, don't try to take off at any random moment. You can only take it off when I help you. Her tone was calm, but Emo could feel the killing intent. He sighed, but he could only agree and put the mask on. The nun nodded satisfyingly when she saw Emo wasn't resisting at all. He felt a light breeze blowing with a faint smell of blood. He immediately knew that it was the black bear. It actually came to them. Emo knew that this was his chance. Master Jiesun, let me see that stone again. It's very strange. I think I've seen it somewhere before. Emo had an idea. For some reason, the nun actually gave it to Emo. You can have a look. When you use the stone to test them, I will be looking on the side. If they meet the requirements, I will tell you. If I don't say anything, it means they didn't pass. Emo quickly thanked her and grabbed the spirit stone excited. The stone was much bigger than the ones he had gotten in the Nei snow mountains. Emo fell a few steps behind, and then they heard a roar. A huge black bear saw the nun and him and charged at them. Emo rejoiced. The bear had come just at the right time. He turned around and ran without thinking. Master Jiesun, I was chased here by this bear. It came again. I will retreat. Don't worry about me. Emo jumped onto a branch and ran rapidly. Jiesun tried to grab the spirit stone and throw him to the bear, but she missed. The reason she had kept Emo was indeed for him to get more people, but it was mainly to find out why Emo could feel the stone but not be sucked by the formation. However, when she had to face the threat of the bear, she cast Emo's life aside. Although she could get rid of the bear if she did, she would have to use a lot of chi and the young man might escape. Moreover, the stone was in his hands now. But Emo was already more than 10 meters away. Jiesun cursed, but took out her horse-tail whisk broom and whipped the bear's eyes. Emo looked back and confirmed it. The nun was also heavily injured. If she hadn't been, he wouldn't have been able to run away. She could have killed the bear with one kick. After all, she had half-step great heaven power. But it wasn't the case, and when she took out her whisk, her reaction had been too slow. The whisk managed to hit the bear's head, but the bear's hide was thick. The strike made it furious, and it charged at the nun again. Emo was running to the motorbike, but he was in no rush. If the nun was no match for the bear, then he wanted to try and take the nun's bag and see if the golden page was in there. Just when the bear was about to ram the nun, she hummed something and kicked the bear's throat. The bear rolled downhill many times and managed to stand up, but he didn't dare go up again. Emo immediately realized that it was the bear that was no match for the nun. It seemed like he should start running. Seeing Emo run, the nun got furious and started chasing him. The bear saw the nun run and thought the nun was running from it. It instinctively charged at her again. The nun pulled out a dagger and used it to stab at the bear. A deep gash immediately appeared on the dumb bear's hide, and it ran away whimpering. The nun wasn't interested in chasing the bear. She had seen Emo get on the motorbike and chased after him immediately. Although she was fast, Emo had already started the motorbike and left earlier than her. Stop or I will kill you right now, Jiesun called out. She had to expend a lot of the inner chi she had managed to gather after a long time, because it was definitely hard for her to try to chase up to Emo. She didn't expect this kid to be so sneaky and run at the perfect moment. She regretted not dealing with the motorbike earlier. However, she believed that it would only be a matter of time before she caught up. Suddenly, Jiesun thought of some details. Had this kid already found out that she wanted to kill him? If not, why would he be running? Also, he chose such a perfect time. Did he know that the bear was coming? But how? Strangely, he had also taken her chi stone away. If he knew everything beforehand and this was all part of his calculations, then he was too scary. She had to kill someone that scary or she would suffer greatly one day. Was he a hidden sect cultivator? Considering everything, it did make sense. He had probably also gotten hurt due to that formation just like her. Upon realizing it, she hated herself for not figuring things out earlier. The kid might perhaps have even come there for the Nai Luo Sutra. If it wasn't that she had to go back to look for Luo Xian, perhaps she wouldn't even go back to the inner hidden sections. Luo Xian had been the first to have the sutra, so she must have been involved in the other pages going missing. Luo Xian, that horny little bitch, always looked like she didn't understand anything. Yet as soon as she arrived in the outside world, she was tricked. If she didn't keep the 2 pages for herself, then she probably gave them away. She should have killed those 3 martial sisters from the very beginning. Luo Fei was no saint either. Luo Fei had also wanted the Nai Luo Sutra for the man who tricked her. But she couldn't find Luo Fei now. She really didn't understand why the younger generation was so shallow. Did all of them have to find a man, even daring to lie to their sect for them? Although she lied to her sect too, it was for herself, not for some man. A man was only useful for that business. Was it really worth so much trouble? Emo heard the nuns howling and sneered. He wasn't an idiot. It would be suicide if he stopped now. Emo had made up his mind to travel to Ninghai as soon as he reached the city and have Beiwei help him. Once he recovered his power, the first thing he would do would be to teach that nun a lesson. But soon Emo couldn't laugh anymore, because the fuel meter of his bike was in the red zone. Emo looked back and saw that the nun was still chasing him. Although he was worried, he couldn't do anything. Seeing the woman get closer and closer, Emo knew he would be dead meat if he didn't think of another way. How would he stall for time with this nun? You have the 2 remaining golden pages, right? And it was also you who went to the underground room, right? If you stop now and give it all to me, I can promise I will let you live. However, if you keep running, I will catch up. And the first thing I'll do when I go back will be to kill Luo Xian. Her words almost made Emo fall off his bike. He didn't think this woman would be so smart. She had guessed everything. But he had no intention of stalling time with her anymore. Since she had found out all that, if he fell in her hands, he would be dead for sure. The fuel was about to run out, so at a turn, Emo hit the throttle all the way and used the momentum to charge down a cliff. Emo knew the nun would catch up soon, so he resisted the pain and crawled down the cliff. He wanted to hide somewhere she couldn't see him and make her think he fell off the cliff. But the pain from his leg combined with his lack of chi made him unable to stop himself, and he really started falling down. Emo's heart sunk. In Xianxia, Xianxia had been there to save him, but now he fell below the Duanheng ranges. No one would know about it. Perhaps he was even falling to his death. Splash Emo found himself in a pond after falling through branches upon branches. Emo might not have fallen to his death thanks to things cushioning his fall, but he was covered in wounds. As the cold water cleared his head, Emo realized that it was only more dangerous in the pond, because that nun would get there very quickly. Looking at the flowing water, Emo allowed himself to get dragged along by the current. If he was washed away by the water, he might at least still have a chance to live, but if he fell in the nun's hands, he wouldn't have any chance at all. Luckily, she was heavily injured and it would take her some time to go after him. By that time, he would be washed away by the water. The water kept brushing against Emo's body as Emo twirled forward. He kept crashing into rocks in the river, and not a single spot of good skin remained on him. Emo tried to avoid hurting his eyes and focused himself the best he could. He didn't dare relax at all or let himself fall unconscious, as that would mean certain death. Luckily, his will was very strong and he managed to stay conscious. After a long while, just when Emo thought he wouldn't be able to hold on anymore, the water slowed down around him, and he floated to the water surface. He saw that he was in a not-too-wide river as the water continued flowing downstream. He had finally made it. Emo breathed a sigh of relief instinctively, but he then immediately tensed up again. He realized that he couldn't hear much and that, without a doubt, he wasn't able to speak either. The pill was starting to take effect. That damned nun. However, Yemo couldn't do anything about it and he was still in danger. The nun would find the place in a very short time, so Yemo planned to swim downstream and see if there were any boats. But as Yemo swam a few hundred meters, he knew that wasn't going to work. He had lost a lot of blood and was full of injuries. He couldn't even properly swim, but even if he could, he wouldn't be able to escape from the nun. It wasn't realistic to hide somewhere nearby either. Just when Yemo was unsure of what to do, a loud song was audible in the vicinity. Yemo subconsciously looked around and saw a bamboo raft come from upstream. A man in his 50s on board with 4 baskets full of herbs. The raft was fast and could be a great help to Yemo. But Yemo didn't call for help. Instead, he waited for the right time to dash under the raft and grab the bottom. "Big brother, wait a moment." Just as Yemo stabilized himself under the raft, he heard Jiesun call out from the bank.